Warning, the following program contains sensitive material that may be unsettling to some audiences. The Pedantic Pedestrians are not responsible for any injuries or paranormal activity that may occur during the viewing of this program, including, and not limited to, whiplash, bipolar disorder, a sprained ankle, or demonic possession. Viewer discretion is advised.
Two guns. Do you want to, encourage people to respect the host? So funny, Chad.
When you see people laughing. Nah, like, pause it. What did he say? Whenever it sounds like he said.
Well, I don't know where Dirt is, Shab, but we really need to get around to organizing everything for the meetup. So we wanted to do a shrooms meetup where I trip on shrooms and stuff because in Minecraft, because I have the Fantasia, and apparently there's all this research that shows that magic mushrooms, psilocybin, can help you open your mind's eye. But we're doing the Baltimore DC meetup towards the end of July, late July, early August. We're gonna try to get everything together. So Dirt has this idea that we're going. Chad, don't walk away.
I didn't walk away. I'm right here.
Okay, stay right there. Don't move. Crow, stay on Chad. Make sure he doesn't get up. But
I have headphones on.
Dirt,
I can hear
okay,
you.
shut up. Dirt has an idea that will try to find a B&B that's equal distance between Baltimore and DC. So Baltimore and DC are roughly 50 minutes away from one another. So if you find a place in the middle, 25 minutes, equal distance to both areas. Baltimore, there's the National Aquarium, Baltimore Science Center. There's all those tourist attractions. The National Aquarium, I think, is I think it's ranked the #1 aquarium in the country, and it's the third or fourth largest aquarium in the country. And then we wanted to do the Smithsonian Museum, but we wanted to find a B&B, equal distance both ways, where everyone, maybe somebody might, rent out their house and everything, so that way everyone can contribute to the cost.
You should rent out your house. That'll pay for this trip.
But anyway, we need to get around that and everything. But Shab sent me a playlist, so he wants me to watch all this stupid stuff. So I guess we'll pander to Shab.
Yay!
Evidence that the
and Timmy, did you like and share out the stream?
I sure did. I tweeted it.
Bro, did you like the stream and share it out on Twitter?
I just did. I don't have Twitter though.
Oh, you don't have Twitter? Everyone in the chat, did you like it and share it and everything? Okay, well, anyway, let's start.
Bible was right. Check this out.
We have proof that the Red Sea crossing happened. Proof, not just artifacts on the bottom. We had those. We had chariot wheels on the bottom of the Red Sea.
What do you think this proof is? Somebody went there and they looked up, and then God spoke to them because they just felt the aura of the horizon of the sea, and you know what? That is proof that is God. That is the essence of the universe.
All these cool little artifacts, but the coolest thing that I saw is the shoreline. If you've ever watched the Ten Commandments movie, they had that big pillar of fire that came down. That's mentioned in the Bible. This pillar of fire, I just pictured these flames coming down. But when you go to that shoreline where it's documented to happen, the entire shoreline is melted sand, and it takes.
I don't think they mention in the Bible a very specific part of the shoreline, and I also believe that they don't even really mention which sea it is. I don't think they specifically mention the Red Sea. That's something you see a lot, when it comes to a lot of these biblical stories, where there's a general location that people are aware of, but then if you actually look at the Bible, it doesn't really specify anything. So people just kind of associate it with some well-known location in that part of the globe when it comes to where these little like Bible fairy tales originated. But
about 3,000 degrees or more to melt that sand, and it's evenly melted. You can almost see like footprints. There's stones infused in this melted sand. This is amazing. You don't hear about it. If it was a proof of evolution, it would be in every.
So do you know what the fallacy of a single cause is? You know what that is, Shab?
I've heard it. I don't recall.
So essentially it's like, hey, here's something, and here's an explanation where it could have been like this giant pillar of fire from this fairy tale that did it, which isn't plausible at all. But hey, it could be that, therefore it is that. It's like, well, maybe there's other explanations. So what about all these other possible explanations that are probably more grounded in reality that are much more plausible? So when there's multiple possibilities, it should almost be like plausibility versus possibility. So you take, let's say there's 5 possibilities, 5 possible explanations. Which one is the most plausible? Is it some conspiracy or whatever? Or is it just, I don't know, a few people hijacked some planes and crashed them into some buildings? Or was it the reptilians? Which one's more plausible?
I think it was
Every
dragons.
single.
I don't know. And plus, what he's presenting seems like an untestifiable hypothesis, being able to test whether it's a magical pillar of fire. I'm sure there's other elements of like, I don't know, geology, oceanography, whatever. I'm not a pundit in any of these areas, but I'm fairly certain there's other things that might cause like these kind of like archaeological footprints. But I'm sure they're not going to go over like other like potential causes. It's just the one that he wants to be true. It could be A, B, or C, but I like A. That's the one that appeals to me on an emotional level. So that one.
Textbook.
Oh, of course, it's a TikTok video. Jesus Christ.
Chad loves TikTok.
Yeah.
What if you were afraid of nothing? Nothing. Man, beast, financial, bankruptcy, nothing. Do you understand what that would mean? Once you become fearless, life becomes limitless. I'm not afraid of anything.
Speech that will make you hard. The ultimate motivational speech by Dan Pena.
I should be dead by now. I've been run over by a charging buffalo. Got up, chased it down, killed it. Killed a Kodiak bear with a knife. You can't kill me. I believe that with
So is this like a word salad speech? Is it just like some tangential garbage where from beginning to end?
It's just stupid because at first it's
you
like...
look up, you think, what does it mean to be one with your heart? And then I ask other people, what is it like to live? What is living?
on my heart. You can't fucking kill me.
Actually,
The people that I talk about, Andrew Carnegie.
afraid. It's like, okay, I can get with this, but as he goes, it's like, yeah, and then I'll be in the middle of the freeway with a fucking truck charging towards me, and I wouldn't give a shit, okay, because I knew nothing would kill me. It's like, okay, old man, calm down. That's what
So
he
you're
just
saying
said.
You should exercise due diligence or whatever to avoid, like, I don't know, bad things
his
happening.
whole thing is just like, I don't know. Keep playing it if you here.
Henry Ford, Rockefeller, Steve Jobs, they're all tough. Show me your friends and I'll show you your future. And there are people.
I don't know, Chad, but like if you're in that dual scenario where there's a truck coming towards you, you need to show the truck that you're the superior specimen.
Yeah.
You don't... You stand your
I'm
ground.
not afraid
it's like,
of nothing.
You're not supposed to turn your back and run away from a wild animal. Like you come across a bear or like a puma. That's what you need to do if some trucker is coming at you.
They're available. There's never an easy time to make a hard decision.
Hey, guys.
Never. And the guys that are changing the world, that are introverts, not alpha males like me. Elon Musk thinks the same way.
Alpha
Warren
males like
Buffett
me.
thinks
He
the same
called
way.
himself.
Bill Gates.
I didn't even catch that before. He calls himself an alpha male. Oh my god. Jesus Christ.
Like how people don't cringe when they say that and they're being serious when they use that term. It reminds me of like the kind of mentality people have in like elementary school and middle school, where it's like, look, I'm this and you're that. Like the kids try to create these stupid like group terms that have like no meaning.
Yeah, it's like, how do we determine what an alpha is?
Well, you engage in your own self-assessment and you decide based on your own evaluation that you're an alpha. And yeah,
it's like
I'm not biased in my own favor when I say I'm an alpha because I'm obviously an alpha. And you're obviously a beta. Yeah,
because bank account has a lot of money or whatever. You a beta? Huh? And you
just roll your eyes and act like it's stupid with other people. And this is what it comes down to. It's not even like a lot of these people. It's not even about being thick-skinned or thin-skinned and shit like that. A lot of them, it's just, you're my buddy, I like you, you're an alpha. You're somebody I don't like, you're a beta. And with a lot of this garbage, it's like that's what it boils down to with emotionally mature adults. It's just, you're on the people I like list. You can be funny, you can be smart. You're on the people I don't like list, the poopy buttheads that I don't like. So there can't be anything positive associated with you because that's a sign that you're an emotionally mature adult. It's black and white. I like you. There can be positive things associated with you. I don't like you. You're everything negative. Can't be any positive things associated with you.
Thinks the same way. Steve Jobs thinks the same way.
What?
Brigitte's in the chat. And speaking of Brigitte, I bet Brigitte's more alpha than this guy. I bet she could take him. This guy that's talking about how he's not afraid or whatever. Brigitte's
Jobs.
Brigitte's tough.
Like had some all fruit diet or whatever, and that's what ended up killing him. It kind of shows that you can be pretty gifted in certain areas, but still be pretty fucking stupid and mindless.
Mr. Heineken and I thought the same way. Now, we all know the world's fucked up. There are riots every place, right? Not every place, but almost every place. What's happened? In the military, they have safe...
Now, I know I cover, like, all the tragic stuff that's always going on globally. So if you watch my podcast, probably think things are pretty bleak. Like, society's going downhill. But thing is, society has always fucking sucked. Like, human history, every time period, it's been full of unrest and genocide and slavery and human rights violations. So I'm pretty sure if you go to like the 60s, the civil rights era, like when Vietnam was a thing, like people burning their draft cards, I'm pretty sure riots and protests were going on everywhere back then as well. I don't think this is a new thing.
Cards. If somebody's yelling at you too much, you pull out a card and say, chill out. They don't have that in Russia.
No, if somebody's yelling at you too much, you say, like, chill out, Karen. Okay, Karen.
No, he was talking about somebody in the military who's in the military being yelled at by their sergeant. I guess there's some sort of card thing they do. I don't know.
A child needs a safe space to avoid offensive words. You failed as a parent. In my day, they used to say sticks and stones can break your bones, but words can never hurt you. Now
that's another thing that's kind of arbitrary. So when people talk about safe space, like, what's a safe space? It's like if you don't want somebody being a rageaholic and getting in your face and screaming at you, I think that's just like basic common decency. So I don't know. I think it's kind of a lot of people. It's just they're being antisocial and shit, and then people don't want them in that particular group. And then it's a safe space.
Just the opposite.
And he
if
said
somebody building my kid
he grew up with the whole sticks and stones may break your bones. I feel like there's probably nobody here watching this stream. There's nobody here
that abides by that.
No, there's nobody that didn't grow up with saying that or other kids saying that as a kid. It's not his thing with his generation. All these.
Well, the logic of hey, you just need to ignore somebody is like being confrontational with you and starting shit with you. You're a thin-skinned beta if you don't ignore it. 0% of people ever do that. I mean, maybe I'm being hyperbolic, but still, like the overwhelming majority of people, if somebody is being confrontational with them, they're probably going to be taken aback and they're probably going to respond by being confrontational as well. So, and it's more the Dunning-Kruger effect. The least competent people tend to think they're the most competent. So the kind of people that usually are dismissive when other people are dealing with like drama with others, it's like, well, hey, why do you care? They're the kind of people that are the most likely to freak out and start screaming at others if people like butt heads with them. So it's just they're allowed to get mad. They're allowed to demand that somebody be punished or somebody be called out for starting shit. And that's usually a thing. Like those kind of people, other people take issue with what other people are doing. they're just big babies. Why do you care? Just ignore. But then they're the last people to ignore. Like they immediately will scream, and then they make that assertion that they're starting stuff, and it's like, well, what's starting stuff? It's just, I don't know, like,
yeah, Timmy.
Yeah.
On Facebook, I go over to the kid's house and I would kick the shit out of the father.
Violence. That's how you solve every problem.
Yeah.
Trial by combat. That's how the alpha society.
And hold back. Did you pay attention to what he said? It was something along the lines of like, if some kid messes with my kid on the internet, I'm gonna go over to that kid's house and do that to their dad. It's like, what?
Well, what if your kid isn't the innocent party? I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that your kid is entirely at fault. It could be just two kids butting heads
it's like,
with each
no,
other.
you just go there on a fucking rampage, Gene.
Because you know your kid's right. In the same way you're not biased in your own favor, you're obviously not biased in, like, your kid's favor. And of course, like, if you decide to assault somebody because they're messing with you or, like, whoever you're dating or your kid, like, clearly you're in the right and you're coming to the right conclusion. Well, clearly, like, you have a good reason to attack other people when you feel inclined to attack others. But if somebody assaulted you because you were being a douchebag, I'm sure they wouldn't press charges. If they're being a smarmy piece of shit and somebody decides to, I don't know, like, just sucker punch them in the face, I'm sure they would call the cops and, like, press charges. But if they assault somebody, or if somebody they don't like is subjected to battery, well, they clearly did something to bring it on themselves. So there you go.
Drunken
violence is never okay. Call the cops. Well, it's not okay to assault somebody if I'm assaulted. But if I assault somebody else, well, they're being a piece of shit. They deserve it.
With these two hands.
No, I was gonna ask Drunken Crow.
And I gladly do 3 years in prison.
Drunken Crow, how many people do you think coming through to the bar you work at and they call themselves alphas?
Probably plenty. But they're probably like early 20s.
For it.
Dickheads.
Sally and I went to the Grand Canyon several years ago. Grand Canyon in America, you know, the big hole in the ground, and there's a thing that you can walk out over the hole in the ground and you look down there in the big canyon. And there was a Chinese couple, remember? A Chinese couple. And
I look at the Grand Canyon. I look at this.
And
there's no way that happenstance could cause this. Everything needs to have the beginning. Everything needs to have creator. And you look at the Grand Canyon, it's like, there you go. That's God talking to me. That is unequivocal proof.
Yeah,
God,
big hole in the
creator.
ground.
they started to go out on the plexiglass thing, and the father couldn't do it. He was too afraid. So the mother and the two kids, about 4 and 6 or 4 and 7, went around, came back the other side. And the father was standing at the exit, shaking. And then he went like this to hug his kids.
He had Parkinson's.
The children were so embarrassed, neither one of them would hug their dad, and they walked past him. Because he was the only father that didn't go out there. That father, that wife, and those two little shit kids will never forget that incident as long.
Oh my God. What a failure of a parent.
Why is the race of the couple? Oh, he didn't need to throw that in there. This Chinese couple.
He also didn't have to call the kids shit kids. It's like the kids didn't do anything
Wait, so he's talking about, I think he's trying to claim that it's like, yeah, like there are more cowardly people or whatever, so it's some like dog whistle.
No, I don't. You mean
as long as they fucking live.
Asians? He's trying to say. He's not trying
to
say
Crow
that.
I didn't hear him say it, but Crow mentioned that he brought up the race.
He just happened to mention. He was just giving detail on the situation, and he just said that. I mean, but I think what matters here is like, for one, yeah. Imagine. Well,
why bring up the race? It just seems like I don't know.
You're just describing a story. I don't know, but I think it matters more that, like, for one, it would be pretty ironic as fuck or whatever if, like, the dad did have some sort of disability and that's why he had an issue there or something.
And vertigo.
Yeah, or and as well, it's like, again,
you gotta pull yourself up by the big straps. Willpower is how you function as if you don't have the disability at all.
But again, why is he calling the kids shit kids? He literally said these shit kids. Like, what?
Because
what?
I don't know, because the parents failing them, they're just like I don't know. They're
who's
just
the
turds,
bad party here? The kids?
I don't know.
Both. Like, fuck these kids. I don't know.
Well, regardless of what kind of environment he's raised in, he would find his way to his alpha state.
Yeah, alpha.
Genetic and environmental factors need not apply.
I should have thrown the old man, that little skinny little Chinese guy over the thing. At least he would have died with some fucking glory. If anything in the seminar offends you, your parents raised a pussy. Okay. Now, when kids are 6 months old, they're pretty happy. Unless they got a diaper they need to be changed, right? Kids are happy, slappy happy, right? When they're 3 years old, they're still pretty happy. When they're 7 years old, remember self-esteem's built the first 7, 8 years of life. But then something happens. And who are you around the first 7 years of life? Normally, a mom, maybe a dad, a grandparent, an older brother and sister.
I'm pretty sure, like, you're in elementary school at that point. Most kids have already been in a couple of years of elementary school by the time they're 7, so I'm sure they've had plenty of exposure to other kids and other people outside of just, like, their immediate family.
But then life happens. Now, they call it hormones when they turn 15, and then by the time they're 20, they're off the charts, and by the time they're 25, as some of you are in this room, they act crazy. Because life catches up to you because you're now being
crazy. 25, like, that's typically when the brain's fully developed. It's usually when people are young adults right out of high school where their brain's still developing. So even though they're legally kids or they're legally adults, they're still kind of biologically kids. So they still have that, like, neurotic teen angst even in, like, their early 20s. So usually 25's where, like, most people do kind of stabilize and grow out of, like, all of that sort of adolescent neuroticism.
Released into an environment that your family
isn't it ironic as fuck he says that when he's this old man?
Yeah.
And he says, "Oh, if some sort of kid and my kid has an issue, I go and fuck up the dad." Like, that's something some 20-year-old would think is okay. You know, at this age, you should be smart enough to understand that's
trial by combat. That's how you know you're right. If you can beat the shit out of somebody else.
You should be mature enough to know that, like, no, you go over there and you talk with the dad and try to work out what's the issue here or something. You could do, like, no, it's just going in.
That's for betas.
Going and fucking up the dad is just causing more issues.
Well, what if the dad's like some 7-foot-tall weightlifter? It's just, I'm sure he's gonna.
He's an alpha. He said he's an alpha. Yeah. This fucking 4'8" guy or something.
He would just use his alpha death stare, and then the
not only does he not look big this way, he doesn't look big this way. He looks like he's probably at most 5'8" or something.
I think he's talking about when he was, like, younger, middle-aged adult.
Yeah,
so he's at the point where he's lost a couple feet.
I'm old
control.
now.
And if you thought your family were lack of role models, when you get out there, all the role models you're going to come up against are even worse than your family. Because arguably, ostensibly, your family at least should love you. Other people may pretend to love you, but they don't really love you. Now, I'm not saying love is the answer, because if love worked, you wouldn't be going to seminar.
What about spouses and, like, people you're dating and stuff? I'm pretty sure people find others that they're not
what about
biologically
friends?
related to, and
you can't possibly love a friend or anything like that.
No, that's like a beta boy bitch thing to do.
Yeah,
with your friends.
You don't have to be able to rant and rave like I do. But what you have to be able to do is pull the trigger, take action. And reading books and listening to podcasts is not taking action. It's just another form of procrastination.
So I understand there's people like Origin where they sit there and it's like, I read, and they advertise it and brag about it. But then there's also annoying people where it's kick their ass. It's not about having discourse, like rhetoric, logic, and reasoning and knowledge that's stupid. So there's people where they clearly have an inferiority complex. So somebody like me, where if you have a notable amount of education, whether it's formal education or, like, independent education, their attitude is like, hey, you're not somebody that has real world experience. And it's just, do you think, like, what's your real world experience? It's like, are you, like, going on some adventure every day, living off the land, climbing a mountain on a regular basis? It's just, I'm pretty sure you're working the 9-to-5 grind like the overwhelming majority of people. So I like when people say that, and it's like, okay, so this person who has a high level of education and they work some kind of, like, white collar job and they do their 9-to-5, and then they come home and watch TV for like 4 hours. It's like they're doing the same thing. They're working their 9-to-5 job, coming home, following the same kind of routine that the overwhelming majority of people follow. So, but like they know things through like real life alpha experience. They don't have to rely on just things they read in a book. And it's also they rely on that because they're not very knowledgeable. So you disagree with them and they don't know their history. They don't understand like political science, economics. So when you actually understand how this stuff works because you've educated yourself and they don't understand the language surrounding the topic or any of those, I guess, basic like predicate, like the logistics surrounding it and everything, they will fall back on that. Like, oh, you just believe anything you read in a book. And it's just, I think if I read a book on how to program in Java, and then I'm able to actually write programs, I think you're actually able to, I don't know, their attitude is, it's just believing what other people say. It's almost like you can apply what you're learning and actually verify it through practicing it. So it's just if a tutor, a mentor, a professor teaches you something and you're able to take that information and you're able to actually apply it and actually generate some outcome from it, then through action, you're able to like prove that like, I guess, information, that knowledge that was passed down to you, actually it is something that has substance to it. But hey, he's not able to look at it that way because, you know, that requires logic and reasoning. And it's not about rhetoric. It's about telling people that you're an alpha and then kicking their ass if they disagree with you.
Yeah.
I work at it every fucking day. I don't sit around having lattes, chilling with a Riesling by the canal in the sun. Now, we have people that come to me that are so embarrassed.
What, do I really come across as if I'm like on something tonight? It's like I'm actually not on anything and I'm like tired, so I don't know. I'm afraid I'm being too deadpan.
Of being a snowflake. Life expands and contracts with courage to change. And now the kids.
And I mean, again, people like this, it's like somebody triggers you, you assault them. So the way their brain works is that if you go into rageaholic mode and you scream and cuss people out, that's not being a triggered snowflake. But then if somebody, I guess, is all mopey and they complain, hey, they're being an asshole. It's like, I don't see how that's any better. You're still being like a triggered little like bitch when you're sitting there, like somebody says something to you and you start.
Oh, they're talking about the guy on the screen. But
okay.
he's also sped up. He's sped up as well, guys.
Yeah, 1.5 speed.
Yeah, but
expand. They want to be able to read a book.
Go on.
Listen to a podcast and expand. I'm attempting with all the knowledge I have to instill in you the psychology of the high performer. You know, Steve Jobs changed the world. I think everybody will agree with that.
I think a high performer
he will be judged.
Cares enough about their own like well-being and all that stuff and money and whatnot to not just go and assault people randomly for no good reason. Like, I don't think Steve Jobs, I don't think what's his name that owns Microsoft, Bill
Gates.
Bill Gates. Like, I don't think they go around assaulting people. You know why? Because people will sue them, and then they'll lose a bunch of money and stuff. Like,
it's not just that.
They're also not asshole fuckers that just go around and assault people. That's not
being able to vest somebody in like a fist fight doesn't mean you're in the right in the dispute. It doesn't mean you're in the right morally and ethically, and it doesn't mean you're in the right factually. So it's like, if I think 2 + 2 = 4, and somebody kicks my ass and they think 2 + 2 = 5, I guess 2 + 2 = 5 now. That's how science should work. It's not the scientific method. It's not research that should be used to like verify facts. It's you just have a cage match with somebody, and then if they beat the shit out of you, now Pluto's a planet because somebody that thinks it's not a planet anymore, you just like beat the shit out of them, and now it's a planet.
Yeah, like people don't appreciate proper rhetoric, and that's why they don't appreciate like just like I don't know good having.
And isn't that what separates humans from like other animals? Isn't it like our intelligence, our ability to create like machines and tools, and not just like spoken language, not just relying on like, hey, the two pack animals that get into a fight and like the one that's able to beat the shit out of all the other males and muck spread and hog all the mates. That's what made it's the alpha. And I'm pretty sure like societies that distance themselves from that in ancient civilization, those were the societies that progressed further. And I think you'll see that people who tend to do better in society are people that tend to not condone violence, and they tend to prefer, I don't know, discourse and civility, modesty, and the kind of people that sit there and it's like, hey, you prove that you're like, I guess, better than somebody through assaulting them. It's like, okay, well then, I guess you should really get down and kiss the feet of like grizzly bears and like tigers and any sort of apex predator, because they could, like, it doesn't matter how strong you are and how good you are at fighting. Like, you throw anybody in the ring with, like, a grizzly bear, they're going to maul you alive. And it's almost like that's why we need to keep animals in cages, because they're violent and hostile, and they're, like, pretty fucking mindless, so they're unpredictable. And it's almost like what you see with people that love violence, there seems to be a lot of parallels with them and animals. They're unpredictable. They need to be kept in cages. They're not really productive members of society.
Yeah, like you drunk.
Because he changed the world, not because he wasn't a nice guy.
And then when people like play that stupid game, like, yeah, I bet I could beat this person in a fight. It's just they like their Xbox. They like their like modern sort of silicon-based technology with like their smartphone, its operating system. They like their air conditioning and their flushable plumbing. So do they think it's people that have that kind of mentality that are like the pioneers, the artisans that are actually like inventing all those things? It's just, I like how like they think if they go to Johns Hopkins and they sit in a room with a bunch of medical students, or if they go to MIT and sit in the room with a bunch of like, I don't know, like computer engineers, their attitude is that they're all going to be a bunch of bros. They're going to be a bunch of alpha dude bros like them.
Elon Musk changed the world. Doesn't act like such a nice guy sometimes. He will be judged for the world he changed.
I bet I could beat him in a fight. I bet a lot of people could beat Elon Musk in a fight. So, like, what is it? Is it beating the shit out of somebody proves that you're, I guess, more on the right side of things and you're doing life better? Because I don't think Elon Musk is somebody that falls in that category. There's lots to criticize Musk for, but this is an area where I don't think Musk falls short in when it comes to this side of ethics.
You can overcome fear by positive experiences, and one of the things I do is I jump out of planes, I jump in bungees, etc., etc. Although I'm pretty
there
much
you go. He's an adventurer. He goes sky, like I said. So if you climb a mountain and go skydiving and stuff like that, that's how you prove that you're a more knowledgeable person. So when you discuss politics, you go out there. You've gone skydiving before. So if somebody spends a lot of time with their head in a book or whatever, they don't know life. So if they read a lot about history, and they disagree with you, and you clearly don't know your shit about history, and they're arguing circles like around like they're like arguing circles around you, what you do is you point to the fact that they don't know anything unless it's from a book. So because you've gone skydiving or whatever, now you're more of the pundit when it comes to things like history.
Being afraid of anything.
I tell you, John.
What's that?
I hate to tell you, John, but Sunfire says she's got her money on Elon Musk.
I don't know, Elon. I think most people could probably beat him in a fight. Have you seen him with his shirt off? He looks pretty. He looks like he has some kind of like skeletal disorder.
You're not accounting for reading, John.
True self-esteem has to be learned. Now, the self-esteem that you can learn now at your age isn't the kind, the rock solid from 7, 8 years old. Now it's hanging around with people. Being honest may not get you many friends, but it will always get you the right ones. And what I want you to do from this point forward, no matter if you hated what I said or the way I said it, is choose carefully the people that you associate with. Machiavelli said, a ruler is judged by who he surrounds himself with.
Machiavellianism. I think Machiavelli, his big ideology was more using wit and being cunning and I don't know, pitting people against each other, getting other people to engage in the violence for you, and puppeteering things from behind the scenes. So I don't think Machiavelli was the kind of alpha where he would, I don't know, try to confront people heads on. He would play the Game of Thrones and the House of Cards approach.
If I were to decide what kind of person you were by the people that you are closest to, what would I think of you?
Yeah, Machiavelli, it's like you're ready to beat the shit out of him, but then you realize that he put the the hellbane in your drink and stuff, and then you end up choking and you fall dead before you even get the chance to throw the punch.
How would I judge you? Buffett, that is. You will continue to suffer if you have an emotional reaction to everything that is said to you. True power is sitting back and observing things with logic, and power is restraint.
Dude, there's so many contradictions and inconsistencies with what he's saying. So this is another tangential word salad thing where each principle that he tries to preach conflicts with the principle that follows or that precedes it. So I don't know, it's almost like he has a flawed moral compass. It's almost like when you're inconsistent and you're constantly oscillating between different conflicting and contradicting sort of viewpoints. It's almost like you're not a logical person. You're illogical. I'm pretty sure contradictions are an element of flawed logic.
True power is restraint. If words control you, that means everyone else can control you. Breathe, let things pass.
I think everybody, unless you're a psychopath, cares what people think of them to some extent. Some people care much more than they probably should in some cases, but that's just sort of social psychology. You're part of a tribe. You probably should care what the other people in the tribe think, because if they think that you're a waste of space and they don't want anything to do with you, so they'll just, I don't know, leave you out in the cold or whatever because you're an annoying piece of shit with inferior genes. Maybe you should care that they probably find you to be a problem, and they might I know the homicide rate was very high in Paleolithic times, when people lived in hunter and gatherer tribes. So I think it's just human nature to care. You're in the workplace or whatever, and people find you to be annoying, and maybe all the workplace drama could result in you losing your job.
Most of us care what other people say, and most people care what other people think.
Yeah, and you should to some extent.
And if you can just reduce that emotional baggage just a little, you have no idea how much freer.
I just noticed the title of this video.
Yeah, I haven't even
I even began to become hard.
Yeah, it hasn't clicked for me. So
I'm disappointingly flaccid right now.
Doesn't
you're gonna be?
Doesn't his whole I don't care what people think?
That's just
stupid. Doesn't that go against just the whole premise of this video? Because he's trying to do a motivational speech towards people to change the way they think.
Yeah, but it's also, it shows that he's not very knowledgeable when it comes to psychology, because I'm pretty sure the science shows that the most judgmental people tend to be the most sensitive when it comes to being on the receiving end of criticism. The most incompetent people tend to think that they're the most competent, and the most easily offended people tend to be some of the most crass and offensive and crude people out there. And that's usually an element of people that are very antisocial, is not there really minding their P's and Q's and not really paying attention to how they talk to others. But then they don't really pay attention to their own hypocrisy. So when people are rude to them, they freak out, and then they lack self-awareness. And that's the reason why they think they're much more stoic than they are, but they lack the ability to see how easily offended they are. So, I mean,
and how much more you're going to accomplish in your life.
Do you think he kind of falls in that category?
A minute ago, the first method of estimating the intelligence of a ruler
is to look. It's kind of like the Karen complex. A lot of people you'd classify as Karens do that. They're usually very apathetic, and usually a lot of apathetic people, it comes down to poor theory of mind or metacognition, thinking about thinking. They're really bad at recognizing how they treat others the way you want to be treated. They're bad at really understanding how they do act on a regular basis and how they do perform in these areas. So because they're very inept when it comes to, I guess, self-reflection and everything, they tend to hold people to these unreasonable standards because they just lack that understanding of how the human mind works and how people tend to just think in general.
at the men he has surrounded
And I
himself with.
know autism is kind of associated with that element. People who are on the spectrum, and don't shoot the messenger. This is the science. Well, they have poor theory of mind. So when you hear that people with autism have issues socially, that's that's the big contributing factor, is that they have a difficult time separating subjective schema from objective truth. They don't understand that. What's that?
Dirt's barely been around lately. Yeah. That's poor socializing. I think he's retarded.
Wow.
He hasn't been socializing at all with us lately, Gene.
Yeah, he's been socializing quite a bit with me. He forced me to watch the Godzilla.
Well, then he's retarded with me or something. I don't know what's happening.
Well,
that was a good movie.
You're just not being retarded with me.
And where's Danny? She hasn't been on my stream being everybody's turning against me. One person at a time.
We're just busy. We're busy folk right now. We got a lot going on. How's the Halo treating me? Way better, dude. It's a lot cooler up here in hell. I mean, not like really cooler, like literally cooler, like the temperature.
That's gay.
There, what have you done with Danny? She's asleep, dude. She's beddy by times. What you mean, dude? It's past midnight here. That's crazy.
But you know what other conditions are also associated with poor theory of mind? Poor metacognition.
Oh, lupus. No. Lupus. that was a good guess. So.
Your cluster B personality disorders. So antisocial personality disorder. I wonder why it's called that. Narcissistic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, which our friend Alan Reyes has, and he also has autism. And what's the other one? Histrionic personality disorder.
And this is old man Heineken, Gerard Heineken, back in the day, 1864-ish, who was ruthless. The Heineken family's an icon. They've done a lot for the country. I'm not taking that away. And that's the guy, more recently, Freddie, who's his grandson, I believe.
Yeah,
and now
Shep really wanted to watch this, and I'm the one doing all the commentary.
That's what I wanted you.
His daughter, who is
Heineken,
I believe.
I thought you were going to get hard.
I thought if I watched all the stuff Shab wanted to watch, he'd have more to say.
Well, that's why I handed off to
again, success leaves school.
That's why I wanted you to see it, because I knew you'd have stuff to say about it.
You're Dutch, right?
Apparently, I went and saw a psychologist, and I've seen a psychologist a few years ago, and he thinks I had I don't know if it's official diagnosis, but he brought up schizoid personality disorder, and that's a cluster A personality disorder. So I guess maybe should look into that.
They pretend Dutch or real Dutch?
Apparently, that's one of the elements of schizoid personality disorder, is that you're very flat and you're very dry and monotone.
And they're tough as nails. And at Apple, CEO Cook regularly begins sending emails at 4:30 a.m. and previously held Sunday night staff meetings by telephone to prepare for the next week. Cook shared on May 13th that his leadership focused on people, blah, blah, blah. He's waking people up at 4:30 in the morning. He's tough. And of course, the stories are legendary about Amazon. 80 hours a week to keep your job. 85 hours a week to be considered for promotion. 90 hours.
Okay, so when you're talking about the 9-to-5 grind, this is sort of like Nietzsche and his criticism of sort of modern society. You wake up, you engage in your daily routine, eat breakfast, go to work, come home, go to bed, wake up, and that kind of or it's also Albert Camus, the myth of Sisyphus, or I always have a difficult time pronouncing that character's name. Sisyphus.
Fuck, you're getting me. Fuck, do it. Sisyphus.
Syphilis. No. But yeah, just the cyclical sort of 9-to-5 mundane routine. So I wonder if this guy, if we have AI that's sophisticated enough where it can just do all the work, and then people have unlimited time to do whatever they want, and people can engage all their time in their own self-actualization, Maslow's hierarchy of human needs. They can invest all their time in learning how to play any musical instrument they want or on any of their projects. I wonder if that guy would be for it, or if he'd be the kind of person where it's oh, it's socialism, it's communism. So he's criticizing this, like, working 90 hours a week and shit, but I wonder if he'd promote that kind of society.
John, I did the math
at Amazon.
And if you work 90 hours a week, and let's say average sleep 8 hours, that only leaves you within the week 22 hours. That's just spare time. Only 22.
And those rules aren't instilled by Amazon management. Those rules.
And I mean, there are people that do have to do that. Like, they have to work like 3 jobs just to make ends meet, and they have to rely on overtime. So there are people where it's just, they have absolutely no free time, and it's just they're doing nothing but working these mundane sort of jobs that barely pay a livable wage.
Are instilled
and
by
I think that shouldn't be the case.
Amazon employees. Peer pressure. Because they like being the top. They like being the best. And Elon Musk, we've grown fucking soft. Elon Musk, after Vance noted that only hundreds of people were working on Tesla headquarters on a Saturday. SpaceX, all these guys are the same. Now, some of you will say, well, Dan, I don't want to change the world now. If this is what it takes to change the world, I pass. That's cool. Then you don't have to go to seminars anymore. Then you don't have to read books anymore. Then you don't have to listen to podcasts anymore. You're going to have 20, 30, 40 hours a week extra time. So I saved you, in a manner of speaking, from a life of procrastination and not taking action. You don't have to thank me. That's fine. Just go to my site. Everything.
I think one of the reasons why people procrastinate is it's analysis paralysis. It's just you have so much limited time because of how overworked people are. So you have this limited range of free time, and it's like, what am I going to do? If I do this, then I won't have time for that. If I do that, then I won't have time for like this other thing. So I think a lot of procrastination is just the not knowing what to invest your time in. And then that sort of, fear of, so that's probably one of the reasons why people just will order food from the same place over and over again. They don't want to risk like ordering something they don't like. They know what they like. People might have a difficult time finding new shows to watch, and they might watch the same thing over and over again. And a lot of it is that you have so much limited time, you don't want to waste the time you do have. And maybe if we had a society where people weren't overworked, they wouldn't have to deal with that.
It's free. And I don't care if you like me, dislike me, hate me. I don't give a fuck about that. You can say all the bad things you want about me. Go to Reddit and say all kind of shit. I don't care.
Yeah, talk shit about him. He won't care. He'll just kick your ass.
Remember, my goal is to save a few of you.
So what?
Holocaust denier. Boom.
Is he?
I don't know.
Test trials are always hard.
He doesn't give a shit.
My mentality is that of a samurai. I would rather commit seppuku than fail. Elon Musk, that means kill yourself. He would rather kill himself than fail. All night, no friends, nothing. Elon Musk reveals the lonely 24 hours he spent for his last birthday. Gee, what a shame. It's lonely at the top. Eagles fly alone. Eagles fly above the clouds.
Eagles. They don't fly alone in Lord of the Rings.
Oh shit.
Mentoring. All top athletes, they know that Bill Gates has a mentor, we know that. And I made you feel better yesterday by telling it's the truth. Warren Buffett, Mark Zuckerberg, Elon, and Bill, well, like most of the audience, introverts. There's nothing wrong with being introverted. There isn't. As long as you take action. Show me your friends and I'll show you your future. And these are the guys that I model. Socrates, Aristotle, and Plato. And I've been privileged.
This guy is all over the fucking place.
To speak in front of the Nail SEALs, Special Ops, Green Beret, Army Rangers, fighter pilots for 5 hours on how they transition out of the military into the real civilian life. Now, why did they ask Dan Pena?
I wonder if you asked this guy about the Socratic method, if he would even be able to go into any detail about it.
Yeah, 73-year-old man who hasn't been in the military for almost
50 years. Because a lot of people, when you rely on the Socratic method, when you're having discourse with them, which is like you ask questions to expose their ignorance on the topic, because a lot of people like to make assertions. So you sit there and try to get them to recognize their own ignorance. Knowledge is a justified true belief. So I find that a lot of people that fall on this side of like things and everything, they get really mad and act like that's being obnoxious or whatever. So I don't think he would really be a big fan if I disagreed with him and I was using like the Socratic method to argue him into a corner.
Years to come and transition, train fucking assassins. Why didn't they ask all the guys you listen to? If it's not obvious to you, you ought to go blow your fucking brains out. Because I am the real motherfucking deal.
Oh, he's so hardcore.
And I scared the special ops. I scared SEAL Team 6.
This fucking guy.
See, some people just never grow out of the cringe. This kind of it kind of shows that with age, wisdom doesn't always combat the like cringy personality disorder.
And what you've dealt with heretofore is not the real deal. And that's why Michael has me here, because
I'm a real man.
He's the real
fucking deal,
dude.
I go to church. I'm a Christian. You don't know me. You're not God.
He probably beats his wife. In my
I was thinking the same
Well, you did the right
thing,
thing. I know you don't want to get anybody in trouble, and we're here to make sure everybody's safe.
Wait, I think we already watched this.
That you're safe and your mom's safe, and
Yeah, like I remember making jokes about this, like what a narc and everything, telling on, God, Shad.
Hey guys, update. I didn't get the job.
Oh, was she, what is it? Was she, drinking, like iron as like a homeopathic medication? That's what turned her skin blue. Because some people, when they get tatted and stuff, that's what it looks like. If you've seen people that have like iron poisoning where it like turns their skin blue, it looks like that's what they're dealing with.
You knew you wasn't going to get no job looking like that. You knew you wasn't going to get no job when you did that to your face. Cut it out.
That one's funny because, you know, like there's a difference between having a little bit of tattoos on your face and doing like some shit like that. It's like you talk about blue. Well, you talk about blue hair being sign of crazy. What about that blue face? It's got to be 10 times crazier than Missy, right? With her blue hair.
Yeah, blue lives matter.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I thought it was silver. Sunfire said silver.
I don't know. I've seen that guy before, though.
Oh, isn't this what you wanted us to do on Patreon or Patreon?
Yeah. Or whenever.
Okay, we're done with the Shabisky segment. So, okay, so do you know who, like, this dude is? Stuttering Craig?
Sounds familiar for some reason, the name.
So,
I feel like her future is good.
He was, like, behind the site called Screw Attack. So this was, like, even before YouTube. And it was, like, where, like, the angry video game nerd apparently is from, like, Screw Attack. And I actually, like, listened to their podcast when I was in high school. But the podcast, they just talked about video games and movies and TV, just media. So they never really went into their political views. And I'm sure that a lot of the people that he, like, went their separate ways, they're working for other sites and stuff. I don't really think... And apparently Death Battle, that's also came from Screw Attack. But he apparently is a pretty right-leaning conservative, and I came across them again because I was listening to DFF, and they were talking about, like, Darkside Phil, and I saw them, like, they had Darkside Phil on, and they were going over his, like, jokes and stuff, and he made, like, some edgy joke about this sheriff being so evil, he wanted to traffic this girl. It's like, why would you joke about that? And then I'm watching a bunch of their, like, other videos. They're having Razor Fist on, and this is, like, within the same time frame. So it's not like this is years later, and now they have, like, a different sort of, like, I don't know, sense on things. So,
It's gonna be something along the lines of Alyssa Mercante.
Let's go to the most ungrateful bitch in history. I'm sure you saw this video being passed around, but here we go. Let's take a look at this. They, them.
Am I the only one who's narcissistic?
Oh, and they're very anti they them pronouns and everything, so they never shut up about it.
Event I was ever involved in. This is one of those weird ones where I always felt like speaking about this.
And this is a good example when it comes to humor and when people play the stupid. That's one of the things that irritates the hell out of me. And this shows poor theory of mind. And again, people with neurotic personality disorders, people who score high on tests that measure neuroticism, tend to also score very low on tests that measure theory of mind, separating subjective opinion from objective truth. So they're too stupid to understand that what's funny and what isn't funny, what's annoying and what isn't annoying, what's offensive and what isn't offensive. That's not something that's unequivocal, like whether 2 + 2 = 4. So there's a lot of people out there where they'll say that this person, they're being an asshole, and to them, whether somebody's being an asshole or not, that's just as explicit as saying that somebody is like a AB negative blood type. Like whether somebody is rude, that's just as black and white as saying that somebody's left-handed or 6 feet tall. And there's a lot of idiots that are like that, where they'll get offended over jokes, but then they watch South Park. They'll laugh at all the edgy South Park jokes, and then they also will a lot of people who don't get offended easily will also buy into that. Like, well, you shouldn't say things, make jokes that upset others. It's just, I think it's shocking how many people don't understand. There's no universally accepted list of jokes that are offensive. There's no universally accepted metric.
Negatively could be perceived in the wrong way. Like, my parent was just being supportive, and how lucky was I to have a parent who always showed up. Boo.
Yep.
Boo. But did you also feel like sometimes it was a bit excessive, especially if it was a bit more of a repetitive thing where maybe I was doing the same thing on multiple days in a row? Like, you do not have to attend every one. And
this is giving Colin Kaepernick energy.
Yeah.
Oh no, I was a.
So they're saying that she's ungrateful because she's doing a TikTok video complaining about her parents. So she's acting like a generic teenager.
Adopted by great parents, but they're white.
And I mean, usually it's like, I don't know, that's normal, where when you're like a teenager, you're in adolescence, you're in this dependent state with your parents where they have this authority over you. And that's a very modern thing where naturally you're not supposed to have that sort of, I guess, dichotic relationship with your parents. Like when you're like living in a more natural kind of setting. Once you're in adolescence and stuff, that's more where you're like, throughout most of human history, that's where you'd be considered an adult. And of course, that's not how things should be. I do think that, you know what, like, you're not ready to be independent at the age of 14, but it makes sense. It's just biology. You're naturally going to get into that rebellious phase where you're living under the roof and stuff with your parents. And it's just part of being fucking human. And they're acting like when they were a teen, they weren't like, oh God, my parents are so annoying. I'm getting to that point where you are like naturally at that point of independence where you naturally question your parents. And, but I'm sure they were completely subservient when they were teens. And there's a lot of morons where that's like how their brains work. They tend to think that like prior to the 50s, kids just wore button-down collared shirts and their hair was just neatly parted to the side and they were just absolutely complacent. And kids not respecting adults or their like older relatives, that's a new thing. And it's also, if you're living in a house with other people, regardless of what the relationship is, it would be nice if your kids had this absolute respect for you because you gave birth to them, you're providing for them, but it's just regardless of what the dynamics are, when a bunch of people are living with each other 24/7, people are going to get under each other's nerves. It's just the reality. You're not going to live with anybody long term where you don't like irritate each other to some extent. Even the healthiest relationships, if you're living with somebody else, it's called life. It's called being fucking human.
Nah, dude, I never get on Danny's nerves. Not ever.
Yeah. So it's like siblings are going to irritate each other, like parents and kids are going to irritate each other. So acting like, they're supposed to have this religious, like pious sort of attitude with their parents where they just kiss their feet and respect them as like, you gave birth to me, father. I shall never question you. It's just these people clearly have poor theory of mind. They don't understand how people's, like, just how people naturally fucking think.
And what makes this lean more towards the negative, in my opinion, in terms of behavior, is that if I ever didn't want them to show up to every single showing of something, that was considered to be disrespectful. It was very much that taking me out of school for lunch, sort of picking me up and dropping me off everywhere I went energy, where...
How that's kind of intrusive if you're at school and your parents just randomly show up to try to, like, take you out to lunch, like, that seems kind of atypical. And I mean, maybe when she's older, like, that's the thing. Stuff like this might be a little annoying. And when she's older, she'll probably like look back and it's like, oh, those were like minor quirks or whatever. And a lot of people do that once they get out of adolescence. But he's acting like she's the most ungrateful person ever. I think she's just acting like a teen. And plus, if you're talking about helicopter parenting is a thing. So it is considered a dysfunctional format of parenting. So their context is needed. It's just a YouTube short, a TikTok video. You can only like garner so much from it. So we don't know exactly how intrusive they are. So this is recognizing one's own ignorance. So when you're just sitting there jumping to this like baseless conclusion that she's just over exaggerating it, maybe they are very extreme when it comes to being helicopter parents and being intrusive and not giving her what any psychologist would consider a healthy level of space for a kid their age.
On the surface, it seems very convenient, very thoughtful even, but it's a pattern of controlling behavior, I think, for narcissistic parents that prevented me from practicing independence and developing relationships outside of my immediate family.
Oh my goodness. No self-awareness, calling her parents narcissistic for supporting her. And
I don't think, like, you probably should be asking, and they don't have her on the stream and stuff, but this is something where, are they going to go and look at her other videos to try to get some additional context, or maybe, I don't know, ask questions in the chat to see like what the extreme is? Because there's very little to go off of. You don't know what the like exact extreme is. So it seems like they're just jumping to conclusions. Like they're making, it could be multiple possibilities, the appeal to possibility. There's multiple possibilities in terms of how extreme it is, but I think they're just, again, the fallacy of a single cause.
Bill Hicks poses a good question, John. What's worse, helicopter parenting or iPad parenting?
Probably
I'd
iPad.
say it depends on the extreme.
Yeah, right.
Because I don't know, like there's parents that are overworked, so they'll use electronics as like a babysitter, but they probably, like, I don't know, do it more often than they should. And we know that if kids spend too much time in front of screens at a young age, it can like interfere with their attention span, and it can cause problems with different areas of neurological development. Chat, can you stop? I told you to stop doing that and wait for me to finish talking, because it gets distracting and then I lose my train of thought.
John, I'm just saying there's multiple times where you finish your sentence and you play the video.
Okay, go ahead, Shab.
Okay, but what about iPad parents who make their kids watch PPP?
I don't think we're appropriate for that young of an audience.
I think it's better than letting most of these parents do their helicopter parenting shit.
Oh my god.
They'd probably do a better job, Jane. They'd learn a lot.
Don't let Gene and Shabisky raise your kids.
I mean, there's different extremes to helicopter parenting. So there's like parents that never let their kids spend the night at anybody else's house. They never let their kids like go out, hang out with other kids. There's parents that homeschool their kids to the point where the only world they know is like the world of their, like, a lot of like highly related, like I have relatives where they're Jehovah's Witness and they have their kids, they homeschool them. All they know is the Bible. They have no relationship outside of the relationship of their parents. And they're just they live in a vacuum. And there are people that do that where that's an extreme form of abuse when you're like isolating your kid to that extreme.
not realizing that she's the one that's looking like the narcissist here.
You know what she reminds me of? I feel like her future is going to be something along the lines of Alyssa Mercante. Like she's giving that kind of energy where everyone's the piece of shit and she's the angel.
I could see that.
But also this little shit. I was
I think they're making a bunch of like hasty assumptions.
saying this on Twitter the other day.
So-
This little shit.
Am I wrong? But I feel that when we do commentary and when we watch stuff, or at least me, I sit there and I break it down and it's like, it could be this, it could be that, maybe it's this, in this scenario, this is how I feel if it's that scenario. It seems like their level of like critical thinking, deductive reasoning, pretty like limited.
Shit is just an androgynous piece of shit who's just been brainwashed into thinking these ways.
So, again, I don't know. This is me.
An
my own
androgynous piece of shit.
Well, this is me acknowledging my own ignorance. So, are they saying androgynous? Like just her appearance?
Yeah.
I mean, because she, like, I don't know, or I'm saying she, so I guess I'm falling short when it comes to the pronoun thing. But do they actually identify as they them? Are they, like, if you go to their channel, is it a bunch of content that's all about like I don't know, they them, like identification and stuff? And even if that's the case, it's like why does that piss them off so much? But how do they even know? Like, maybe they looked at the channel, but if they haven't, it's just, and their appearance seems androgynous, then the fact that they're like jumping to that conclusion right away and bringing it up when it's not even relevant, because it doesn't even seem like they even brought it up at all in that video. So why are they bringing up the stupid they, them, this androgynous shit? It just seems like they are too like hyper focused on that.
And that is the future. And it's sad.
What it sounds like to me is that she was wanting to either interact with people that her parents wouldn't approve of or do things that her parents wouldn't approve of. And that's her problem, because otherwise...
Yeah, clearly that's it. It could be that, therefore it is that. It's just, they don't know what the extreme is. Maybe that's the case. Maybe she's trying to hang out with kids that are well known for being a bunch of ne'er-do-wells in the neighborhood and stuff, and they're known for lighting people's houses on fire. Or maybe it's just they don't let her, or they don't let them hang out with anybody. They don't like, and there are parents that are like that, where it's just, when I was younger, there were kids that I knew in school where it's just, and they came from, like, a lot of them, like, they're the first generation born here, and they're from, like, certain Asian family, and it's tiger parenting. And that is, like, a type of, like, I guess a form of sort of authoritarian helicopter parenting. And even though you hung out with them on social media, and they like got along with certain kids, they weren't able to hang out with anybody at all. Their parents just didn't let them hang out with anyone whatsoever. And there are parents that are like that, where it's just their kids aren't allowed to have a social life outside of school.
Why do you care if your parents are there? You know, maybe, and judging by the fact that she seems to be very brainwashed by this they, them androgynous ideology, yeah.
Okay. Did they even bring it up at all?
You do not.
So this is like, why are they even talking about that? Did they? I mean, I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they looked at this person's channel, and maybe that is something that is a big part of their content. But it seems like, hey, they just look androgynous, so they're just going to assume that they identify as they, them. And I mean, you're kind of an asshole doing that. You're judging a book by its cover. And it's not even like they have like some like glaring sort of facial tattoo, or they're like they have some half their head shaved or whatever. It's just I think if you have a problem with somebody that like takes on this kind of appearance, I think maybe you're like an overly judgmental piece of shit. Like I wouldn't really think anything if I see somebody like dressed like this, or like regardless of whether they're a guy or a girl. And it was so common for like when I was in high school for girls to dress like this and stuff, or they would just wear a hoodie and jeans. They wouldn't necessarily wear things that you consider to be like feminine. So I don't know why they care so much about this.
Well, to be fair,
You know,
the Blabs chick person is kind of androgynous too.
Okay. And yeah, but it's like there's nothing wrong with that, but yeah, why is that something that pisses them off? Like, do you not think that? And they're the kind of people that probably are all like anti-SJW, like, oh, like these all this LGBT bullshit, and it's like too progressive. But I do think it's reasonable here to say that they're bigots, because they look androgynous, they're using that to kind of like devalue that person's character.
Thinking these ways, and that is the future. And it's sad.
What it sounds like to me
I
is
mean,
that
that would be like, I don't know, you have somebody who is gay, and maybe on the surface they come across as very feminine for what you'd expect the average guy to be, very masculine for what you'd expect the average woman to be. But then they're doing a video on like talking about like, I don't know, like certain energy drinks that they use before they exercise. And it's just, it has nothing to do with their sexual orientation. So why do you care that they come across as, I guess, too much of this or that when it comes to femininity or masculinity based on whatever their like sex is? It just seems like, hey, baby, you are kind of a bigot here, a homophobe, like some kind of anti-LGBT like piece of shit. I don't think somebody's necessarily being too much of an SJW or whatever. I don't think you really have to be somebody who's trying to virtue signal to make a good point here that they are kind of fucking bigots.
Yeah, like Timmy's gay and we don't care.
Yeah.
Is wanting to either interact with people that her parents wouldn't approve of or do things that her parents wouldn't approve of. And that's her problem, because otherwise, why do you care if your parents are there? You know, maybe, and judging by the fact that she seems to be very brainwashed by the...
I do think most teenagers would care if, like, they want to go to the movies with their friends and they have parents, like, when they're 15, 16, that can't just let them, they have to be in the theater with them. I think, you know what? I think if they were teenagers, they'd be complaining as well. I think they're full of shit.
Well, it's like
they, them, androgynous.
It's like,
and they're claiming that they're the most ungrateful teen ever. Even if that's just the case, like my parents are annoying because I can't even go to the movies with my friends without them being in the theater. They give me that limited freedom. I'm fairly certain if they, I'm guessing that, I know the studying Craig dude or whatever, he's Gen X, so he grew up in the 80s. It's just, I'm pretty sure the average teen in the 80s would find that to be kind of fucking annoying and would probably complain about it. And they're acting like if they had internet when they were kids, and if the same thing was happening, they wouldn't complain about it on social media.
Ideology, it just sounds like, oh, I wanted to do things I wouldn't want my parents to see.
Well, maybe don't do it.
Yeah.
Does she win the award for?
Gene.
Yeah.
Why do you have other people on the show?
Well, do you have something to say?
I think people probably plenty of times. I know, but plenty of times people wanna say stuff, but you just talk and then you play and you talk and you play. You leave no room for Dirt to speak.
What do you want to say, Dirt?
I mean, you know, it is what it is. I agree with what you said, John. Pretty much, this girl, this person, this individual in the situation, they have every right to exist and to, you know, have a problem with the level of, you know, overbearingness the parents had on them, their upbringing. You know, it is what it is. These people, yeah, you're right, John. They're a bunch of judgmental cunts. Even the dude, he's a cunt.
You can find anything.
I think
he's a cunt too.
I think
it's cunt after cunt with this one.
I think those people were just so spoiled growing up, though, that they don't understand over controlling parents. Like, wasn't it you, John, that told me that your mom, if you played like a video game for like 40 minutes or something, she would like throw a fit and act like you've been playing it all day or something, or I don't know.
Like anything that was a screen-based activity where if I engaged in it for less than an hour, like 20, 30, 40 minutes, they acted like there's something profoundly unnatural with that.
Yeah, and I'm glad I didn't grow up with that. I grew up with the opposite. With like my dad played video games with me when I was growing up and stuff. There wasn't, like, of course there would be something where it's like, you know, Anthony, you've been playing video games all day and your room's a mess. It's like, what the fuck? Stop playing video games. But it's like, there wouldn't be like, oh, you've been playing for 30 minutes. This is the end of the world. That reminds me of one of my ex's moms who was way overly controlling and stuff. And she acted like video games were just like the worst thing ever or the most losery task to ever do. And it's like, it's so stupid because bitch has probably spent fucking days fucking worth of time watching movies, you know.
Well, it was like I said, when I was like 7 years old, they threw out like all my toys and stuff. I'm too old to be playing with toys, and then when I'm engaging in screen-based activities, oh, you, like, we're going to take them away because you have some kind of heroin addiction because you're playing for 30 minutes at a time. And then it's like my room was pretty much a vacuum. It's like I had a bed, I had my clothes, and that was about it. And it's like, what am I supposed to do? Stare at the fucking ceiling? It's just, oh, my parents were pretty fucked up.
Mount.
But I guess I'm an ungrateful piece of shit.
Except for talent. Yes. Razor, I don't think you've seen this yet, so I just want to see your reaction to this video. Okay. This is from the Clown World X handle. It says the I don't need a man generation. So here we go. All right.
Whatever you do, don't rub them together because you could catch on fire. Okay. Plus with plus, negative with negative.
Oh no. Oh, I can see how badly this is gonna go.
Let's be honest.
I just had to jump one of my cars the other day, and I almost fucked this up as a dude. But anyway, continue.
All right.
Yeah, but this dumb cunt such a fucking idiot because wow, she can't fucking do it right. That's where this is going, right?
Yeah.
Even though I just did this the other day, even though I'm a dude.
Plus with plus, negative with negative.
I don't know how to
What's
do
the
this.
part
Say
where
what's
you're
my
having a
negative.
hard time? Like, I get that this bitch doesn't, but it's like, dude in the...
As a dude, Razor Fist, you really almost fucked this up, buddy.
Well, it's like him talking like, yeah, I just had to do it the other day. And it's like, well, honestly, it's just like...
It's intuition. I mean,
it's
it's
just...
not...
It's just like, I don't know.
Oh, no.
It's weird. Do you mess up opening doors, too? Like, I don't know.
Maybe she fucks it up really bad.
Well, the problem here is even if the people in the video are being kind of foolish and being a bunch of oafs and everything, it's them generalizing. It's like, hey, here's one video of people being stupid, so let's criticize like entire demographics, an entire generation. Let's be sort of homophobic and sexist, and then and I mean they're also, I guess, being ageist or whatever. I mean, now I think I'm coming across as somewhat of an SJW, but it's the stupid in-group, out-group thing when let's put people in groups based on whether they're a millennial or Gen X, even though you can be 2 years apart and fall into these two different categories. But they're doing the stupid, like, oh, kids these days and stuff, everything's going downhill because, yeah, like things were so exceptional when they were kids in the 80s and stuff. It's not like every fucking decade. It's not like we've always lived in a world full of war and fucking famine where there was always a bunch of like annoying groups of people in all fucking decades.
It's labeled.
Yes, it is.
What are you doing?
Yours is not.
You said
that
mine was
plus.
nice.
Oh fuck.
This one's plus.
So this has to be negative.
Okay.
She literally just showed the label on it, which is amazing. Look at Razor down there. Just not even.
Get sassy with me, B.
I'm not getting sassy at all.
My
so
negatives are cool.
Then this goes here.
Oh.
What does an engine block mean?
So I'm guessing, since it's in quotes, like they titled the video "I Don't Need a Man." And if that's the case, it's like, oh, okay, that's a big cringy and eye-roll inducing.
Oh my gosh, it's spectacular.
Oh.
Oh my god.
Oh, heavens to Murgatroyd.
You just sparked my...
You just told me. How did
I did not tell
you.
you.
Know why? Because these are together. I don't know what I just did. I don't want to do this. I'll just call somebody.
No, that smells bad. I don't want to start my car now. Try it again. You're okay.
Oh my god.
You're all right. I'm sorry for getting sassy. You're okay. You're okay. You're all right.
Oh my god.
You're okay.
I don't know how to get
You just did it.
here.
You just did it, baby. You got it. It's okay. Good job. It's okay.
Good job.
Does she realize she can't get a...
Now, there are a lot of people that are like this, like what she's doing, where, like with any task, they act like everything is climbing a mountain, trekking across a desert. It's this learned helplessness where it's just something like, I don't know, paying for your parking, like at some kiosk or whatever, instead of like having like some human like worker to like interact with. There's people that just make everything complicated, but I think you see people like this in all age demographics. I think this is just some kind of personality type, but of course they're gonna try to associate it with probably their sex, their sexual orientation, their their generation.
Electrocuted through the plastic and rubber on the fucking handle? Does she?
No, of course not. Of course she doesn't. Of course not.
So, I mean, even if just it doesn't have the right amount of like voltage to electrocute somebody, I mean, they don't know that, so that's actually not a bad reason to be somewhat tentative. So it's just that's knowledge. So somebody's a dumbass because they don't know something, and if you don't know something, maybe you should be a little cautious or whatever. And I mean, it's still kind of foolish on their end because they probably should have done their homework and research on what's safe and what isn't safe.
Yeah, rather than
what the risks are.
Here's the deal: rather than record a video of your friend fucking up your battery, you could use the phone in your hand to say, "Hey, how do I jump a car?"
Yeah, you make a good point there. Yeah, they probably could use the phone that they're using to record this stupid incident to just properly do this.
Some people,
like adults.
Some people will do this. Maybe I'm going to be sexist here, but I find that you usually see this with more women than men. The kind of they go out of their way. They know how to do it, but they go out of their way to kind of act stupid, and they do it on purpose. It's like this sort of like it's learned helplessness. They kind of act like, oh God, this is so hard, and they've learned if they do that, then other people will do the task for them.
That's why they need.
And it's not that they're not capable of doing it, but there are a lot of people that are like that of all generations.
Yeah, like that's why people like that act helpless or act stupid need someone like you, Gene, that acts smart. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Well, hey, I know people are probably joking in the chat, but it's the vast exception of the rule. I don't think most women do it, but I do think there's certain types of, I don't know, dysfunctional personality types that are more common with men and some that are more common with women. I think you're sort of like rageaholic sort of assholes. I think that's more common with men. Men are more likely to have narcissistic personality disorder. Women are more likely to have borderline personality disorder. Men are more likely to be serial killers. Women are more likely to poison their kids for attention, even though the overwhelming majority of people of both demographics don't do those things. But that's just statistics. So see if they end up watching this or whatever. I'm not a complete total HKW.
Oh no. Oh no.
So this one goes there? I fell off.
Oh god. It's like watching a boomer try and program a VCR.
Right. No, you stay inside.
Stay inside like there's gonna be fallout.
That's kind of like a boomer thing to say. Like to me, it's like this, like a boomer trying to like update Windows. Them, it's like a VHR. That's the most, I guess, modern tech thing or whatever that you can think of when it comes to a boomer having certain issues.
It probably is gonna be.
This may explode. Watch out.
You gotta be.
You got it. You can do this.
They're labeled. It's not a detonator.
Like it's an atomic bomb.
Yeah.
Look at this. Watch.
Clamp it on where it's marked, Oppenheimer.
What's wrong, babe? I don't know. You got it.
You could do it.
It's sparking. I don't like it. What do you mean it's sparking? It's whenever I get close to there, I don't like it. Then take it off. Then take it off.
I don't like it. So there you go.
So did they ever get it?
I
never know.
Totally unrelated, but I can't imagine why the WNBA never caught on.
Well, that's just it, Blabs. Follow to find out if they got their car jumped. Oh man, see, there's so many questions I have.
Dumb.
Obviously,
women dumb.
And a few statements. Number one,
bad. Women dumb.
Well, like I said, I do think a lot of women do that because, and in a way, they're not the ones being stupid. It's usually the men that are stupid. They'll do that where it's like, oh God, I like this is so hard or whatever, and then it's like, don't worry, I got this. And they are usually like playing the guy to do the task for them. So they're probably the kind of like dumbasses that would fall for that.
Number one, why did she feel the need to, number one, film this? Number two, then edit it because there were cuts in it.
Well, some people do that where they just kind of like, I don't know, making themselves look stupid. There's people that engage in that kind of self-sabotage kind of, like, I think Egghead is like one of those people. Boogie is one of those people. They go out of their way and they kind of do it as this form of like vulnerable narcissism. So and that's probably why it's attention seeking. Some people, for some reason, they like making themselves look like an idiot.
And three, post it online. Right? This was taken from someone else's TikTok. So someone was like proud of this moment or felt it needed to be shared. Yeah. At a certain point, just from a sheer humiliation standpoint, it probably doesn't make sense to post this online. Yeah. Just gonna throw it out there. You know.
No, you motherfuckers don't have AAA. Like, what the fuck? Well, if you can't do mechanical shit, You got to have AAA. It's got to be one or the other. Okay, you can't not have both.
Or have a friend who knows mechanical stuff.
That too. Or husband who knows how to do it. That's the thing.
I don't know. Read instructions.
Guys, she has
possibly.
a friend that
Maybe
does
look at a YouTube video.
Stuff. I don't know.
I
if
think
you knew that.
I think they're partners or they're dating. It's like a lesbian couple.
Search how do I connect jumper cables to my car battery?
She adds that, is needed.
Right, we're not dealing with like heavy machinery here.
Well, I do.
You know what,
Gene? I
Gene.
actually look. What?
I know a guy that works at a grocery store.
Okay.
Okay, go on.
Why'd you feel the
I'm
need
just
to
trying
say
to
that?
add to the show like this broad does. She's really good at this.
Oh.
I know someone. I know. Well, it's
What,
just.
you think she's an idiot because she's a woman?
I think they're all idiots, but I just
did try to look into the TikTok video that this going on right here, and I do remember the title. They did title the video. Two lesbians try to like they I don't know, they try to jack the car or whatever, and the
two lesbians, one jump.
Yeah, so that's a good example of them going out of their way to make themselves look stupid. They're doing it on purpose, and like I said, there's lots of people that like to do that for some reason.
Yeah.
And it's like I think Boogie 2988 is kind of the perfect example of that kind of I don't know, vulnerable narcissism where they go out of their way to make themselves look vulnerable and incompetent. It's kind of like a manipulation tactic.
The other part of me says, I don't blame these women. I don't blame them at all for not knowing how to do this. You know who I blame? Their dads. I blame their dads for not teaching them the right way. Unless they totally pushed away all the stuff that their dads tried to teach them. Yeah. Ultimately, it's their dads.
Why can't their mothers teach them? I mean, it just seems like, why does this have to be a male-centric thing? And do you know where the stereotype comes from that women don't know how to drive and stuff, and they don't know stuff about cars?
Where?
Because in the latter half of the earlier half of the 20th century, where women pretty much couldn't work any sort of job outside of like being a secretary and a teacher, and people usually lived in those nuclear families where it was only men that were allowed to vote and work. So typically they'd have, when cars were new, there'd be one car per household. And because America's very car-centric or whatever, where we all live in the suburbs and you need a car to get around, it was usually the male who would use the car to commute to work. So,
yeah,
because of that sort of like sexist paradigm of our society, women didn't really have a lot of time to really like behind the wheel and stuff. And a lot of times they wouldn't even have licenses because they weren't using the car at all. So they wouldn't really know anything about car maintenance or whatever, which, like, no shit. And it's like, so I think this attitude now, like, I think most women in the modern age know how to jumpstart a car. They know how to do an oil change. I don't think that's something where there's this notable gender gap anymore. I think that's a product of, like, the early 20th century.
Dad's fault, because it's a man's job to teach their daughters how to do this. Just saying.
It's the man's job. So, I think this is common knowledge now.
I know how to do stuff. Yeah, I know how to check my tire. I know how to change the tire. I know how to check the oil. Know how to put the.
Yeah,
Gene, you're not properly podcasting right now. Put on your sunglasses. But that's how you do shows.
I'm indoors in the middle of the night, and
no,
I think
it doesn't matter.
Disorienting.
No, none of that matters.
Yeah. Just they're like living in the 80s, and that's how you make yourself look cool. You wear sunglasses.
It's pretty odd. Like I could
all the stuff, but I had to check the.
They're doing the Howard Stern. That was his big thing.
Yeah.
The radio host, we're always wearing sunglasses.
Well, Skep said the only reason to wear sunglasses inside is to hide your junkie eyes.
Oh,
maybe I should
that
do that.
explains why they're so dumb. Oh, that explains it.
And there's truth to that, right? Maybe they don't have dads. Maybe they rejected their dads when they came out.
So it's only that they don't have dads. That can be the only fucking reason why they don't know how to jumpstart a car.
With their identity or whatever.
What happens when one of these guys, like their refrigerator stops working, or their microwave, or their oven, or or
you buy a new one on Amazon.
Or their AC unit. Wait, why don't they? Whoa, why don't they fix
To be fair, that's kind of where we're at with society. Like, a lot of people will do that in this day and age. I don't know, because
why would
it
they
takes too
call
much time.
someone?
You can
Yeah,
just like do a couple of clips and then have it delivered to your door.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people do that because, like, with modern capitalism, like with things like Amazon, they make it so cheap. So some people, it's just like whatever. Cost benefit analysis, it's probably more convenient and more cost effective to just buy another one than hire somebody to fix it. But still, a lot of stuff you mentioned, like your fridge breaks or something, a lot of times the repairs are very simple and the internet exists, so it's easier than ever to find tutorials.
It could be just like a $40 part to fix your $600 refrigerator. Just need to know how to change it. You know?
And this is something, whether it's like repairing something or like, I guess finding out how to go about any sort of task or whatever, like if you're trying to learn how to use some kind of program, so many people don't really understand that concept of looking things up and just referencing it. Like there's so many people that are just, for some reason, their brain never like processes that that's a thing. And it's just, if they buy something and they need to put it together, it's like, what do I do? It's like, why don't you read the instructions? And this is something that men and women do. So there's a lot of people out there that, for some reason, going through some step-by-step list of instructions is just something they aren't capable of.
Hey, a gay person who has a subpar relationship with the parents of opposite gender. What a rare occurrence.
I hate the lame generic, like, a man does, like
a man needs to take care of its women.
Yeah, and these are manly activities. It's like,
said it, the wrong pronoun. They're women. Yeah.
But it's like, most of these dudes that say that, I've probably done way more stuff like that than they have in their life, and I don't even do that as a job and stuff. I just
you don't gotta brag, Shab.
Like,
no, go ahead.
Like I helped my dad build a whole shed, like years back, and all sorts of crazy stuff I've done over the years, and it's like I don't think of me as more manly because I used a nail gun or something. It's like, it's not that crazy. It's like
that's why all the dumb kids do shop class, because it's pretty fucking simple and rudimentary.
Yeah, but it's badass because whoa, I could fuck up my hand if I put my hand there. Whoa, wow, so manly. Wow, so badass.
No, yes, it's amazing. So there you go. Just absolutely fascinating to see, and it's embarrassing for the fact that they decided to post that online. It's embarrassing that they can't literally see the plus and the minus, or there's multiple ways.
I think you can again find stupid people of all age groups and of all demographics that are going to upload themselves doing stupid things online for the same and you can have the same criticism that they have here. Why did they fucking upload that? So this is like more, I guess, selective attention or selection bias.
Red on red, black on black, plus on plus, minus on minus. Pick your poison. It's amazing. Way to go, Blabs. You're just showing all these women what's up. It's crazy.
Well, you have to know this stuff when you work in agriculture, otherwise you're shit.
Yeah. Can you imagine?
And the thing is, the fact that they uploaded it online, and he's talking about how obvious it is, she probably did that on purpose, because there's people that are like that, where they're just oppositional, and that's probably what it is. Like, that's where my mind goes. That's what I assume. Is it's just that kind of eye roll inducing behavior. They just go out of their way to act stupid just because.
These broads trying to change their oil. That's my question.
I don't know how to do that. I know how to just check the oil and everything. I don't know how to change it besides, lifting it up and everything, but you can't lift up your own car.
Do you think she's an internalized
you can't lift up
misogynist?
your own car?
Hey,
you put it on
speak for yourself.
There you go. She thought you can't. You just need a jack.
I don't like doing this stuff. That to me, I'm not comfortable with.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. Yeah, I get that. I at least understand that, because it's a jack, and plus, who has two? Because you normally just have the one for in case you have to change the tire.
The first time I had to change my oil, because no one ever showed me, the oil light went on. I stopped by the gas station, bought the container, and then just looked up the tutorial on my phone. Took me 4 or 5 minutes to do it.
Right. Most people don't have to.
Man, that's just crazy to see. and sad. That is a
and then
modern...
if people are going to be like, oh, like, what would you do without a cell phone? I would go to the library.
I think
find some instruction, or I would just go to some car mechanic and just ask them how you do it, and then there you go. You find some kind of instruction.
The next video they commentate on should be this bitch changing her oil. That would be hilarious. What were you gonna say, Drunken Crown, babe?
I've been changing my own oil since I was 16. It costs like $40 at a mechanic's, but you can, if you buy all the shit and have the right equipment, it's like $25.
So wait, you're telling me you're like hella manly?
Definitely. I was actually looking for my fucking sunglasses too.
Doing an oil change is something that's really fucking simple. That anybody, you could teach them in like less than a minute.
I just do it because it's myself, because it's cheaper.
I don't know why anybody would pay somebody to do an oil change for them. I mean, maybe some people have anxiety or maybe if you have Parkinson's, you have issues actually actually getting it in there without spilling it.
State of society. I wouldn't even say it's a modern state of society. I think that's you're talking about daddy issues, man. Once again, I blame the father figure that is not there, and I blame them for not looking on YouTube and or any sort of instruction manual.
But again, why the father figure? Why not the mother figure? I don't see why he has to allocate some sex to it.
Oh yeah, when the carbs in my motorcycle.
Okay, next vid.
Heavy rains and floods continue to ravage southern Brazil. At least 136 people are dead, and more than 100 people are missing. In the state of Rio Grande do Sul, Dario Klein reports on a temporary shelter in one of the hardest...
Do you think Razorfist thinks that climate change is kind of sparked by...
It's probably greatly exaggerated, John.
Yeah.
Hit areas.
At first sight, you would think this is a regular gym. But if we open the picture, you'd see this is more than that. Has been transformed.
No, what I don't get is when people are vaccine sort of deniers or climate change deniers, they use that conspiracy theory logic of oh god, that it's just it's just some big I don't know, conspiracy for money or whatever, and it's I don't think that capitalistic organizations benefit from it at all. So it makes more sense that they would be using their money to dispel any of the science, or to discount it, or to try to mislead people. So it's all of these scientists, all these experts and academics that have really nothing to gain from it. Why wouldn't it make more sense that corporations are going to spend money to try to lobby the government to make it seem like it's less of an issue because it's more cost effective for them, it's more lucrative for them? It's who benefits? The corporations. And that's the thing. So
shelter and
if you talk about conspiracies, shouldn't that always be the thing? If you're going to take any conspiracy theory serious, who benefits? Why would they even fucking do that? So it's flat earth conspiracy theories. Who's benefiting from covering up that the earth is round instead of flat? I mean at least the 9/11 conspiracy
covering up it's flat instead of round.
Oh yeah, whatever. But yeah, well, it's 148.
Gene Exposed is a flat earther right there.
Yeah, you are a flat earther now, Gene. It's official.
But at least the 9/11 thing, it's okay, they want to go to the Middle East to steal oil or whatever. So at least there's something there where it's okay, I can see why they'd have some agenda. But that's still stupid because it's what is the president going to be the one stealing the oil? It's where? It's do you even know how our political system works?
A distribution center of the aid of many Brazilians that are sending clothing, food, everything that is needed for the thousands and thousands of people that have been displaced and they are living here in this type of shelters. The Brazilian society has organized itself around many volunteers to make this work, to make this happen, to allow these people to keep living while it's still raining. And it will keep raining for probably 2 or 3 more days here in this area of Porto Alegre. And that could cause that the river can not going down.
You know what? Maybe this is a good argument for why they need to burn down the rainforests, because the trees, they cause all the humidity and stuff, and they're the ones that act as the catalyst for this water cycle. So maybe if we had less trees, we'd have less flooding. What do you think?
We need less trees.
I think I
and
cracked
more
the code.
algae. Less trees,
Yes.
more algae.
But it can still be going up even higher level than what happened before.
Conspiracy.
So the authorities and the society here in Brazil is very concerned. They don't know what will happen, while the people
Chad, that forests are a living organism.
Oh yeah, I knew that. I got told that once.
Going down in boats. Also volunteers are still looking for people in their homes, and they're still looking for even pets that they are still taking out of the places where they are searching all the time and every day. Dario Klein, Porto Alegre, CNN.
These people donated clothing for the pets. That's good.
Tonight, chaos mounting in flood-ravaged Brazil, where as swollen rivers rise yet again, police patrol submerged streets, desperate to stop looters. And the country's Olympic hopefuls leave qualifying tournaments early, giving up on lifelong dreams to return.
Okay, so I don't know how like high the flood is or whatever, where people were looting, but that would be kind of funny if people are just like in jet skis and stuff. I know it was the cop on jet skis, but if they're like on jet skis or boats trying to loot stores that are submerged underwater.
Home and help victims. Brazilian officials say close to 150 people have died and roughly 130 are still missing in the widespread floods, which come after a similar round of flooding hit the area late last year, with more than 500,000 people displaced. Many, like Maria, are asking the same question. Is it time to flee the natural disasters hitting their homes? And in her words, do you buy another house somewhere else?
An intensifying climate means more hurricanes, more floods, more wildfires. Unlike in generations past, there's more people.
Well, Brazil's kind of in a similar situation where you have like a Russia where most of Russia's landmass is tundra. So it's like it has like one of the largest ratios of land that's like inhospitable. Australia, where it's mostly desert. Brazil, it's mostly rainforest, and you can't really I know they have some cities in the rainforest, but most of them have there's a very small percentage of the country's overall landmass that's actually like livable.
And there's more people who are in harm's way.
It's called climate migration, and for decades, experts like Professor Pablo Bose at the University of Vermont have been warning it will become a massive and massively destabilizing global phenomenon. Now, amid the worsening floods, tornadoes, and wildfires of our man-made climate crisis, these warnings are coming to fruition, with the UN predicting climate fears will force 216 million people across 6 continents to move within their country.
I do think they proved that the fires were like actually like it was a form of arson. So it was planned that a few years ago, I forget the president's name or whatever, he was like considered Brazil's Donald Trump. They were trying to burn down the forest to make way for farmland, and he was obstructing aid from coming through to like put out the fires and stuff. And it was very clear that he was doing that to kind of it's definitely a very lazy approach to dealing with different problems with joblessness, because a lot of people don't have a lot of job opportunity. So let's burn down the forest so like people can just use it as agriculture. And he's kind of pandering to people in the short term and ignoring all the long-term adverse effects that it's going to have once his election cycle's over.
By 2050.
This is also something that affects us much, much closer to home.
In the U.S., one study estimates that in the past 2 decades, 3.2 million Americans have already moved from areas known for flooding, like parts of Florida and Texas.
Climate change is equal opportunity. It hits all sorts of places and it hits all sorts of people. It's not equal opportunity in terms of who feels the effects the most. It's overwhelmingly marginalized communities, indigenous populations.
Among the daunting questions officials face, what this trend will mean more broadly. The White House warning in a 2021 report, mass climate migration could induce political instability and pose risks to food and water security. Experts pleading with officials to focus not only on the impacts, but also to zero in on root causes of this man-made crisis that more and more is truly hitting home.
There's bigger policy and cultural shifts that we have to do to really deal with the root causes of climate change, because what this is really dealing with the effects of it, not the causes.
Maggie Vespa is joining us.
Authorities in Brazil's south say they are planning to build tent cities to house some of the people displaced by historic flooding. The state of Rio Grande do Sul has been devastated by heavy rain since April, forcing 500,000 people to flee their homes. Scientists are warning that it may take a month for the floods to subside. DW's Gustavo Basso has this report from the flooded region.
5 Brazilian army boats are now the only...
Maybe we just need to start living like a... They need to set up like atolls like in the movie Waterworld. Maybe they just need to have like cities that are like adrift on sea. Or maybe they should build some like giant naval vessels. Like maybe we should start working on breaking records when it comes to the largest like yachts ever constructed, and we can just have like aircraft carriers are like a city on sea. Like you have
millions
cruise
of
ships.
Titanics, millions.
Yes. Just have like 40 cruise ships and have them all like I don't know, anchored together and everything, and therefore you just have a city on and use vertical farming and stuff. There you go.
Connection in this part of Rio Grande do Sul. Arturo's parents are finally ready to travel. For 3 days, they slept in an office. They didn't want to risk a boat crossing with their baby during the latest round of flooding in southern Brazil.
I think we can go now to our city. Maybe, if the car is still there, so we can go back. We work here in Arroio de Maio, so we came, but there was nothing left. The floods destroyed the house and our company.
There used to be a regular ferry here, but now everything depends on the military. Soldiers also bring donations for the more than 11,000...
You know what? I have another good idea for like my Fallout mod. So, you know how like Rivet City, for anyone who's played Fallout, which I believe no one here on the stream currently has. But I think some people, Skeppy definitely knows. So Rivet City is like this hulk of like a aircraft carrier or whatever that's destroyed. So they established like a settlement in it, but it's like pretty much it's on land, so it's not out at sea. There should be a settlement, a society in the Fallout verse where it's like a giant sci-fi naval ship that's probably like 3 times the size of like the largest ship ever constructed in our reality, and they're like a group of antagonists, and that's their thing. They sail around the globe and they just use their like warship to attack all the coasts and stuff and dominate everybody. What do you think of that idea? We need it's like similar to my idea that I had where we can create our own state in international waters, where you build a giant aircraft carrier, and then there you go, and then you can take over smaller countries with it.
Now, what I thought about when you said that, John, I don't know shit about Fallout. Like when the bombs dropped, would there be any parts of the ocean where, like, you know, a vessel could be out at sea where they were free of the blast wave?
Well, you just build it afterwards using all the...
Well, no, I'm just thinking about this theoretically as a side thing. Is that possible in Fallout?
Well, they do have the Enclave, and they live in, like, these oil tankers, these sci-fi, like, artificial islands out on the coast and stuff. Maybe they build one, and they have it, like in Half-Life, the Borealis. It's, like, in some underground lab in Antarctica. So maybe they have a giant sci-fi ship that's in one of the vaults. Maybe there's like a vault that's like an Atlantis vault or like an Abyss vault where it's like actually built on the ocean floor or something. See, they need to hire me as a writer.
Actually progress scientifically from that point, you know?
Yes.
They were saying.
1,000 displaced people.
No, but even if they're going to build it, like one plot hole that I find is that they have all these sophisticated robots that pretty much can run indefinitely because they run on these like kind of nuclear like sort of like batteries. So why don't they just have the robots go out and collect the supplies needed to build the structures? And it seems like they could create this singularity loop where they just go out and collect all the supplies they need to bring it back and help the settlements grow.
Radiation.
The robots aren't affected by radiation.
Yeah, but if you open up the vaults, you're letting in radiation.
I'm not talking about the vaults. I'm just talking about in general in the games. They probably still have, and they have ways to address to purify the water and stuff. There's like water purification devices. So if that's the case, like why don't they just have the robots that are programmed to go about this singularity of just collecting all the supplies and see, like I always ruin things with overanalyzing.
I left at 5:30 this morning and arrived at the school at 8. It is quite complicated because I work at a school in Layado in the morning and in the afternoon here. The school director said I could leave, so I left 5 minutes earlier.
The iron and concrete bridges in this region have collapsed, and many houses have been left in ruins. Marcos's neighborhood has disappeared. He had his life here. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, Skeppy, you're like, why does nobody clean in Fallout? That is something where it's just, they have robots, they have all like the Mr. Handys and Mr. Gutsies and stuff, and they'll have these houses that are like missing giant chunks like in the roof and stuff, and it's like they can't have the robot just like work on that for a few days and fix it. It seems like it would be pretty simple. They wouldn't have to like exhaust any effort whatsoever. So yeah, I always ruin movies for people or like certain fictional content for people.
Unbelievable. It looks like a bad dream. Then you come here and you see that it's true. When I got here, I looked around and I saw there was nothing left. My house
is a wasteland.
Here. There were trees. Here in the front, there was a big, beautiful tree. A strong tree. It broke. You can see what's left of it. I knew 6 or 8 people. Mr. Orlando's family who lived here. Orlando Silva, who I used to buy from at the market. We got along very well. A neighbor of mine also lived here. And the mother of another friend of mine. 2 couples, too. All acquaintances. All people I spent many years with.
Yeah, my one buddy found his corpse underneath that one house. That's him right there.
Waters in 6 of the 11 rivers monitored in Rio Grande do Sul are still above dangerous levels. The construction of new bridges won't be finished before July. There are almost 80,000 people who still have nowhere to go.
What's that?
They need you, John. You'll get those bridges up sooner than July.
Exactly.
Except for the 770 shelters scattered across the region. For now, all they can do is hope that they will be able to rebuild their lives as soon as possible.
See, at least that dog was making the best of a terrible situation.
It's been just
Okay, Christian Broadcasting Network, what do you think their take is on the flooding? Great flood. God's punishing people for not praying.
Oh, this is a plant,
flooding
dude.
in Brazil, and joining me now is...
Look.
What?
If you see the sea, there's an onion in there.
Where?
I think it's supposed to be a flame.
No, dude, in the logo. This is an offshoot of the Onion. This is parody. This is
is it?
No, the Christian Broadcasting Network isn't parody.
No, look, the Onion's right there.
This isn't like affiliated with the Onion network.
You can see the Onion in the logo.
I think it's supposed to be a flame.
No.
Daniel.
Look it up. The Christian Broadcasting Network is not a parody network.
No.
Castro, who's with CBN's Operation Blessing. He's there in Brazil. Daniel, how are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. Tell me where you're at. And obviously, I can see. I mean, this has been going on for a while now, and the floodwaters just have not receded. So tell me where you're at and what you guys are facing down there.
Yeah, that's exactly correct. In this moment, I'm in a community.
Will recede in like 7 days and 7 nights.
Called.
What was it? It was 30 days, 30 nights.
Sao Leopoldo. And here, you can see around me some of the...
Or actually, I think it was not... The common saying was 40 days, 40 nights. I think it was actually 150 days and nights. So that's like some common misconception.
Houses behind me, some of the businesses behind me. There is even a church behind me, totally covered in water. So what has happened here is unprecedented floods. And
What's that?
They dropped his mic in the water.
Also, non-stopping.
God sending them a message. It's God communicating.
Rain. Just today, the rain stopped. Yesterday, we had rain the whole day. The day before, it was raining the whole day. And just today, we have clear skies. But sadly, we are expecting more rain in the coming days of this week.
Yeah, pretty incredible scene that we're seeing there. I got some other footage here that you can see of what people are dealing with.
Tell me about a lot of rain, and they're going to have more rain.
Some of the just data, because this is, like we said, been going on for a while. Tell me some of the challenges that you're trying to help people meet. Like, what are the common things they're facing, like the ability to get food and water and things of that nature? What types of things are you guys trying to tackle here first?
Sure. So just to give you some context, most of the population of the affected areas have been sheltered already. So they are in different shelters all around the different affected cities. So one of the main needs, of course, is hot meals for those shelters, for those churches, for those schools that open their facilities in order to receive people. So food. Mainly hot meals are a big need, and it is something that we are working with a local partner, a local church, to provide to different shelters at the moment. But then, of course, there are many people going back to their houses.
I think God's punishing Brazil because this younger generation is supporting Hamas over Israel, over God's people.
The water is still there just to pick up some items and to get some essentials from their houses. So something that you will usually see are small boats getting close to the houses and some of the people getting into them to bring gas tank, 1,000 people. So we're talking about big numbers, a big population. And
Okay.
Sure.
These old Christian fucks, they're boring as hell. Next vid.
Wait, John, I want you to actually not you imagine something, but imagine you're in that area or a flooded area like in Florida or whatever, and you're trying to get all your belongings to like a safe space or whatever, and just like a caiman or like a crocodile is just mosey on over, just like, hey, what's up? Like you're just trying to move your shit, and then like a shark or some shit.
Yeah, shark. That's what
I don't think a shark would be able to sustain itself in a... Oh, Florida?
Yeah, I said Florida or Brazil.
Well, you're not supposed to actually go within like those, like submerge yourself in the water because there could be like electrical like cables and stuff. So that's again that you're more likely to probably die of that than like any sort of like wildlife. And not just that, but also like debris. There can be a bunch of like sharp debris and stuff that it's like if you're like waist deep and stuff walking around, that's also a huge risk is cutting yourself and then getting infected. Here's your like cute animals. See, I actually followed through this week. Copyright detected. Next vid.
This adorable dog is named Clover, and while she doesn't look like a hero, she is. When her owner had a seizure and collapsed, Clover blocked traffic to get help.
You are looking at a hero. A big, fluffy hero.
I do know they have service animals that are actually designed, or not designed, they're trained to like assist people who have epilepsy and seizures. To do things like that, stop cars from running them over.
Clover saved her owner's life, and you'll be in awe when you see how. Haley Moore was walking her dog when she suffered a sudden seizure. I spoke with Haley and her sister Riley.
All I remember is waking up in the ambulance and being very confused.
Surveillance video from across the street shows Clover in distress, trying to wake her. Then, something remarkable happens. One car zips by, and it seems to give Clover an idea. She runs into the middle of the street as if to say, "Stop," in the name of the dog. Sure enough, the oncoming vehicle comes to a halt. The driver jumps out and goes over to help.
It was really impressive. The dog Clover actually blocked my way. She kind of backed into the road to...
So, on average, which species is smarter, dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Gerbils.
Yep.
Block the truck.
She's very
Apparently, ferrets are more intelligent than cats, but they're less intelligent than dogs. They're like in the middle.
loyal and protective.
It's really fascinating to watch.
We asked veterinarian Dr. Jeff Werber to look at the video.
It's amazing how natural instinct really does play such a major role in this. But also, when a dog is stressed and they're anxious, they obviously have learned that maybe to get help is the answer.
Haley says she is forever thankful.
I'm very grateful for her saving my life.
Do you know what one difference is between dogs and wolves? It's one of the first distinguishing characteristics when they were originally they amalgamated into human tribes.
They can bark.
Nope.
They don't fucking rip you to shreds.
They have eyebrows, and they can actually give the puppy dog eyes, where they can actually show emotion expressions with their eyebrows. And apparently huskies are the only dog breed that isn't able to do that.
No wonder they look like psychopaths.
What, huskies?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. Well, huskies are also pretty, I don't know, emotive and stuff.
They're loud.
They'll throw little tantrums and stuff.
They're
and
loud.
Yeah.
Fucking huskies.
Yeah, that's how they get around it. They get around the puppy dog eyes by Pomeranians act like that as well.
We're following a developing story overseas now. Slovakian Prime Minister Roberto Fico was shot in an apparent assassination attempt. A government official says it happened this
Hamas did it.
morning in the town of Handlova. Authorities say the Prime Minister was shot in the abdomen. The 59-year-old was rushed to a hospital in Bratislava, the country's capital, about 2 hours away. Fico is said to be in life-threatening condition. Officials say a suspect was immediately sworn and arrested right there on the scene.
What do you think their motive was?
CBC's foreign correspondent Chris Livesay is monitoring this developing story.
What's that?
Couldn't tell you. Restore Yugoslavia.
Chris, great to see you. You are in Rome. What do we know so far about the attack?
It's just a really shocking turn of events, Anne-Marie. You just simply don't hear about this kind of violence in Europe, which has, much more, it's strict gun laws than the United States does. So just, getting a hold of guns is one thing, and then being able to use them in this type of attack, it just simply doesn't happen very often. So
a year ago, I think, where the Prime Minister of Japan, or he was a previous Prime Minister, was assassinated, and the person had like this makeshift pipe shotgun.
We're hearing from leaders around the world, as well as within Slovakia, expressing their disgust and their shock over what appears to be an assassination attempt.
I think they said Rome, so I'm guessing their Prime Minister of Slovakia was visiting Rome on some diplomacy.
We don't often hear a ton about. So what can you tell us here about the Prime Minister?
That makeshift pipe gun or whatever.
Yeah.
You know that YouTuber, I guess he's a Twitch streamer, Hassan, that political guy, leftist guy.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, I forget, it was some governor or something talking about how he was going to be somewhere, and then Hassan just posted a picture of that, responded to it on Twitter.
That's smart,
right?
He's viewed in the country. What sort of geopolitical events are at the backdrop of this?
Yeah, so he actually was prime minister once before this until 2018. People kind of counted him out until he came back into power in September of last year, riding a kind of populist wave. And since then, he's been seen as nearing towards Vladimir Putin, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, these types of, people known for their autocratic rule, some would say, putting tampers on the judiciary.
Yeah, and prime ministers, it's kind of similar to how the Speaker of the House, how Congress votes on who the Speaker of the House is. So they can constantly shift in and out at any moment in terms of becoming the Speaker of the House. So same thing with a lot of countries and the Prime Minister. But then what's odd is in Israel, the Prime Minister is elected by the people, I think. So they actually have elections. So I don't know why he's even called the Prime Minister. And then they also have a president. And what's odd is that the president usually fulfills the role of head of state, so the executive branch of the government. So Macron in France, he's the head of state, and then the prime minister is their version of the secretary of or the Speaker of the House. So typically when you have a president and a prime minister, the prime minister is just the head of their legislative branch. But what's odd is Israel, it's the other way around. They're so fucking backwards. At least their government, not the people.
On the free press. Earlier this year, he halted aid to Slovakia. Slovakia is a country, nevertheless, that's on the border with Ukraine and has seen an influx of a lot of Ukrainian refugees, although not as much as other neighboring countries because of the politics in Slovakia. So there have been a lot of political divisions in Slovakia as a result of its evolving policy, shall we say, when it comes to Russia and Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the results that's had, the impact that has had on all of Europe, namely bordering countries and other countries in.
Was Slovakia a Soviet state? Because I think, Czechoslovakia divided into two states, and I think the Czech Republic was capitalist, or no, it wasn't Soviet, it was just communist. So, yeah, divided in two, and Slovakia was the communist side, and the Czech Republic was the capitalist side.
In Eastern Europe. So that's the backdrop, that's the context of this violent act, of this shooting, but we still don't know the causes.
So, you talked a little bit about kind of what he's been doing.
Yeah, it was part of the Austrian-Hungarian Empire, and then the Austrian-Hungarian Empire, divided, and then you had Yugoslavia, which was several states that were part of the Austrian-Hungarian Empire, and then that divided, because there was a giant, genocide, that went on, in the 90s or whatever, and the UN and the US got involved.
Country, and this is a coalition government. He's had to sort of lean into more right-leaning politicians in order to cobble together this government. But what has the response been in Slovakia to these moves? He's been accused of, putting pressure on independent media, as you point out, moving a little closer to the Kremlin. And how are those moves being embraced or not embraced by the Slovakian public?
It's extremely contentious. I mean, bear in mind that Eastern Europe knows very well what Russia is like.
He says Czechoslovakia was a Nazi colony.
Czechoslovakia, that's what it was. Czechoslovakia. Yeah. I said Yugoslavia earlier. That's
another. It was part of Yugoslavia, so it was part of the Austrian-Hungarian Empire. Then that divided after World War I, and then Yugoslavia Like I think Herzegovina and like Croatia, all those countries are part of it.
I mean, these are countries that experienced the Soviet Union. And some people still think fondly of the impact that Russia has on it. But then, of course, there are many people, overwhelmingly in Eastern Europe at large, who want nothing to do with what they see as an encroaching Russia. And so those divisions are very, very hot. I mean, you see how Ukraine is fighting tooth and nail.
But they're saying it was like a Nazi colony. I think they actually. So you had Italy and Germany. Those were the two big I guess evils in the in World War II, but there were a few other countries that allied with them, and I think the Czech Republic or like one of the two, or I think Czechoslovakia. I think they actually allied with the Axis powers. I forget, but every European country except for like the UK and Switzerland, and I guess if you include Russia, were Nazi colonies and. In World War II, they took over all of Europe.
Do everything it can to stay out of Russia's grip. And there are many people in the rest of Eastern Europe who also don't want to have anything to do with Russia. So for them to see their prime minister nearing, or to at least give the appearance of nearing Vladimir Putin and going away from the United States and the West is very, very divisive.
All right. Chris, thank you so much for jumping in front of the camera so quickly for us. Appreciate it.
This is the shocking moment. Slovakia's Prime Minister, Robert Fico, was shot several times in an apparent assassination attempt. Seemingly unable to walk after reportedly being shot in the abdomen, leg and arm, his security detail desperately bundled him into a car. While only a few feet away, the alleged attacker is pinned to the ground. He was detained and arrested.
I heard 3 shots. It was quick, one by one, like if you throw a firecracker on the ground. I think it's a nightmare. I think I won't wake up from this. This shouldn't happen in Slovakia.
Fico was airlifted by helicopter to a hospital in a nearby town. His injuries reportedly too severe to risk the journey to Slovakia's capital, Bratislava, just over 100 miles away. Earlier today, the Prime Minister had attended a government meeting in a cultural community centre in the town of Handlova, now a crime scene sealed off by police. After news broke of the assassination attempt, Slovakia...
Yes, apparently it did. So I just looked it up. The European countries that allied with Germany and Italy, you had Hungary, Bulgaria, Romania, and Slovakia. So those were countries that joined them right at the beginning.
Slovakia's president called the shooting of her political rival an assault on the country's democracy.
Something serious has happened that we can't even realise yet. A physical attack on the Prime Minister is primarily an attack on a person, but it's also an attack on democracy.
She also referenced the political polarisation that has gripped Slovakia in recent months and urged calm.
Any violence is unacceptable. The hateful rhetoric we witness in society leads to hateful acts. Please, let's stop it.
Fico won a surprise...
I didn't know that, hatred rhetoric can lead to, hatred acts. What do you think of that analysis?
Huh. It's almost like if you spend a lot of time dehumanizing people, and a lot of people absorb that shit.
Well, I just think that, I don't know, that's a pretty rote speech for a politician.
Third term last October, running on a populist agenda in clear defiance of the European Union and pledging not to send a single bullet to Ukraine. His opponents worry he is steering Slovakia away from a pro-Western course and aligning the country more closely with Vladimir Putin's Russia. Less than 2 weeks ago...
So, he doesn't want to get involved, so what you do is you murder him?
It was probably an inside job.
Well, they claim that was the motive, so, I mean, I don't, see what's wrong with being mutual. I guess I don't know exactly what, his overall, agenda is, and what his overall, what his campaign promises are and everything, but if it's just hey, I don't want to get involved at all, I think that's a pretty unethical reason to shoot him, and it seems like it's kind of counterproductive.
Thousands of people took to the capital streets to protest against a controversial overhaul of the country's public broadcasters, something critics say would result in the government taking full control of the media. While it's too soon to glean the alleged attacker's motives...
Okay, maybe I should rescind what I'm saying. It seems like he's being a bit too authoritarian.
The fear in Slovakia and around Europe is this, that the incident, rather than bringing a country together in pain, could polarise it even further.
Well, the press conference is currently being held confirming that the Prime Minister's condition is extraordinarily serious and he is still undergoing surgery. They have confirmed 5 shots were fired. Well, we can speak now to Vladimira Marcinkova, an opposition MP in the Slovak Parliament, and the Vice Chair of the Committee for Europe.
What's that?
Did we hear 5 shots or was it 3? Because the lady said she heard 3.
Well, you can like be there, not pick up on all the shots. So just because somebody didn't hear 5 shots doesn't mean that there weren't 5 shots.
Well, no, but we did see they did show the video of the moment he got shot. Was there 3 or was there 5? Because they're confirmed.
Well,
5.
They said that there were like 5 bullet wounds, so that would be the case. Are you saying it's like a JFK thing? Like,
yeah,
it has to be more
the shooter on the grass,
How many shooters
European affairs.
were there?
She's also a candidate in the upcoming European elections, and I'm sure you'll want to express your shock. But how stable do you think Slovak democracy is?
That one Vegas like concert shooter. People are like, "Oh God, they were hearing 2 gunmen," and it was just like the echoing of the bullet, the gunshots.
Right.
First of all, good evening, and let me wish Prime Minister Robert Fico health and speedy recovery. We are all very concerned about what happened today, and what can we see and what we live. Me as a politician as well, I also face many threats against me and my family lately, and it's very serious that we witness Slovakia being very polarized.
Somebody has opposing views, send them death threats.
Very
It's
divided.
the way. It's how you prove you're an
At
alpha.
this press conference, they have confirmed that they believe
wearing
there may have been a political motivation.
What's that?
It's because she's wearing glasses.
Yeah.
This attack, and as
It's
you
got
say,
blonde
various
hair.
politicians like you are saying that they have received threats, that the temperature of Slovak politics.
See, I have blonde hair and I wear glasses, and people treat me like shit. Maybe that's the combo that you got to avoid.
has shot up. What has been driving that?
Sociologists say that there are 2 absolutely different groups of people in Slovakia nowadays, which are approximately an equal size. For example, 50% of people believe in conspiracies and hoaxes here in Slovakia. The topics that divide us are currently the war on Ukraine, the COVID pandemic, vaccination that was quite heavy on society as well.
So it's pretty bad. Like, I know in America you look at like how many people buy into all these stupid conspiracy theories, like the QAnon conspiracy theory, and it's always like between like 1 in 4, 1 in 3. Here they're talking about how like over 50% of their population is buying into those conspiracy theories. So I don't know, they might have us beat when it comes to. I'm sorry if there's any Slovakians watching or whatever, but I'm sorry. At least in America, it's only like 1/3 of our population that's like completely fucking retarded.
as well as anywhere else, but here
Jane,
even more.
What?
pay attention.
What do you mean, pay
Crow
attention?
was trying to say something.
Do you think it's the education level, or is it because they're in turmoil, or they're a history of turmoil that they're more likely to believe in conspiracies?
I think there's that 1 in 5, 1 in 4 of the population that's just really not that bright in general, and I think it's always been that way. And I mean, you look at countries that perform like better than we do when it comes to things like literacy and stuff, and it's something like when you mention how like 1 in 7 Americans are illiterate. Apparently, all the countries that are above us, they're not even like really that much better. It's like that in pretty much all the developed countries. There's that like 12% of the population, 15% that's illiterate, and then you look at just like how many people believe in ghost sightings and haunted houses, and it's like 1 in 4, 1 in 5, all these conspiracy theories, 1 in 4, 1 in 5, how many people take Bigfoot seriously. So I just think there's that demographic. I think like people that are all into Trump, it's estimated that 1 in 3 Americans speak at like or have a vocabulary that's like a 5th grade level. So I think maybe and here's the thing. I guess at least the majority aren't completely and totally retarded, but it seems like in general, there's that 1/3, 1/5 of the world's population that isn't really that fucking bright. There's a lot of stupid people out there. I think it's just genetics.
Influence of Russia, role of EU and
It's
Western
like a Brave New World where they need the kind of like dumb class. So when everyone's born from test tubes, you have the one like working class where they deprive all the fetuses in the test tubes of oxygen. because they need that subset of the population. So I'm sorry. Please don't cancel me, guys, but I gotta pee. Talk to the chat.
I am almost done with my PPP bingo.
Oh yeah, you're making one?
Yeah, I only asked that question to John, and he gave me 2 things to fucking put on the PPP bingo card.
Bingo. And now we're gonna get old ladies to play
No,
that. And then we'll fuck the old ladies, right?
Do you want to hear what I have so far?
No. I'm kidding. Go ahead. Tell us, babe.
Okay, I have Shab leaves for food. Gene goes on a rant. I could probably specify that more. Shab shows Jack on stream. You've done that already. The Dunning-Kruger effect. That's been said.
That's a good one.
Stream goes on for 4+ hours. Yeah, okay. Lupus rash. Okay. Dirt rips a fat one. That one's for you, Dirt.
Is that wait, rips a fat like rip the something or like rips a fart or what?
No. Like takes a big ass dab.
Well, I'll have to. I'm hitting these black vapes, so I'll hit 3 at once just for you, Crow.
And the next one is dead kids. And then someone says something racist. Shab yells at the chat. Timmy falls asleep. Poop and pee. Then we got the free space. Riots / protests. Gene brings up his childhood. Gene brings up illiteracy levels. And dyed hair makes you dumb.
We got that one. We did that earlier.
Good genius.
Damn. Crow's already got bingo made, dude. He's playing bingo already.
Wait, what? What's that?
He's dude.
What are the bingo like? Terms or...
Yeah, read them again. Read them for John now.
Okay, John, for the second time. Okay, so I have 8 more spots for this bingo card, but and I can always like switch it up and randomly like place them or some shit. But so far, I have Shab leaves for food, lupus rash, Timmy falls asleep. You bring up illiteracy levels in our country or whatever. Dyed hair makes you dumb. Poop and pee. Dirt rips a fat one. You go on a rant. Shab shows Jack on stream.
That would be like a free space. It's guaranteed for everyone to go on a rant.
Okay, fine. I can put that in free space because I already have a free space, so I can put that there. Let's see. Dead kids. We're talking about dead kids. Or you show dead kids. Riots / protests. You bring up your childhood or your parents. Shab yells.
Shab brought that up. That wasn't me, so.
Oh, Bryant says Crow makes inappropriate jokes. Should be. Yeah.
Well, that could also be a free space. I mean, that's bound to happen. But hey, everybody deserves a gimme, right?
Well, I thought someone says something racist was going to be that one.
It's not always racist when you say something horrible.
The stream goes on. The stream goes on for 4 hours. Shab yells at the chat. Did I say that one? And then the Dunning-Kruger effect, because that seems to be brought up every single. Should that be free space too?
I don't know. Well,
we should call it the Dunning-Kruger podcast.
Well, here's the thing: people will get that's like when people sit there and it's like, I recognize a pattern, and they act like it's significant, and it's just, well, what if I'm actually using it for like appropriate reasons or bringing it up for pretty rational reasons or whatever. So there are people that do that where it's like, oh, you're arrogant bringing up like literacy rates and shit like that. And it's like, well, it's hard facts, it's statistics. So why?
Dude,
we're talking about society and problems with education. Why is it unreasonable for me to bring that up?
So as the bingo game began,
dude, no, that's what. Nick says this sounds more like an advent calendar than a bingo card. It's bound to come open, right?
No, I'm just picking like things for a bingo card. So, I mean, I can. This website that I'm on, I can send like links to like the bingo cards that I've already made, or like so far. Like I can throw these in any random spots, and I can like send a link to like anyone that wants one.
Oh, Skeppy. Is Skeppy saying we lack variety? Every episode is the same.
Hey, we haven't talked about Razor Fist for a while.
Yeah. It's like you're covering news and politics. It's like it's a news and politics podcast, and you keep covering news and politics every episode.
That hurt your feelings, Gene, what he said.
Yes, I'm triggered.
Chrissy's queer community.
It's not you, it's the world. Yes, exactly.
Same shit, different PPP.
But I do. Don't you think when people do that is something I'm gonna go on another rant here. When you talk about intelligence, people want to play the game, the straw man, that you're automatically arrogant when you're talking about a subset of the population that's pretty stupid. But facts are facts. So it would be one thing if I haven't looked into it at all and I'm just assuming that it's not even most. It's like I said, 1 in 3, 1 in 5 people. But that's a decent chunk of the population. And people act like you're arrogant for thinking that. It's like, so if the statistics and if the research and the science shows that that's the case, am I supposed to just ignore it because that's what I don't get. Like when people get mad when you accept these hard truths and these negative elements of reality. It's just what you're supposed to do is just turn your brain off and ignore what the science says because it's negative. Isn't that an appeal to emotion? Isn't that illusionary optimism?
Well, I've got some illusionary optimism for you, John. If 1 in 5 people are retarded, which one of us 5 people are retarded, John? What if it's you?
Maybe.
Oh, Crow volunteered himself.
Well, 1 in 5 doesn't necessarily mean that in every group of 5 people.
Yes, it does.
I know.
Yes,
I
it
know.
does.
You dumb fuck. Maybe it is.
It does.
Yeah.
I was.
Well, the
reason I was smoking a blunt with a friend and herpes came up because people. I don't know how people talk about herpes. Like, can you get a blunt for smoking herpes? I don't know. So it was 1 in 3 people have herpes. And then my buddy looked at us, and there's 3 of us. He said. Or it was something like 2 out of 3 people, he said, have herpes. But then there's some form of herpes, right? Yeah, some form of herpes. Well,
acne is technically herpes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But he said 2 out of 3 people have some form of herpes. And then my buddy looked at it and he was like, if 2 out of 3 people have herpes, you 2 are fucked. But yeah. That was funny.
Well, I do think it's important, to pay attention to that reality that there are a lot of people out there that are pretty you can't really rely on them much when it comes to their ability to think in a reasonable manner, is because they do make up a very large percentage of the people that are paying taxes, that are applying for all the different jobs. So there are a lot of people, when you talk about others being foolish, they act like you're overly cynical, and it's like the likelihood of somebody being incredibly stupid or foolish, maybe the word stupid is too negative, but it's just maybe people need to stop playing the rainbows and sunshine game, and they should just open their fucking eyes and accept reality. You don't think that's what it is? It's wishful thinking. This fact is negative, so I'm just going to ignore it because I don't like it.
Look, John, I don't trust the numbers. Everyone I know is a genius.
Yeah, everyone's a genius in their own magical, happy kind of way.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the way I feel is that 1 in, I would say 4 people, I think, they're really bad at just, like I said, theory of mind, understanding that not everyone thinks like them, It's just, hey, I don't have a disability and I can do this just fine. So why would you accept, like, why can't this person who has a disability do it just fine? So there are those kind of people where it's just, they have no mindfulness at all. And I'd say that makes up a good, like, 1 in 4 people. Then there's people out there where I think that makes up a tier above that. That's another, like, 1/3 of people where they're not able to really analyze and assess things and come to conclusions on their own. But once you explain it to them, and once you present the outline and stuff, they're able to comprehend it then. It's like, oh, okay. And then I think there's that other, like, 1/4, 1/3 of the population that probably is able to at least have that level of critical thinking or mental capacity where they can actually break things down and use that kind of analysis and assessment. And I find that there's a lot of people that fall into those previous 2 categories. People where no matter how hard you try to explain it to them, they just can't grasp the nuance. This is stupid. There's people out there where they'll engage in that kind of fallacy of the single cause. Well, it could be this, so therefore it is that. Well, it can also be these other things, and you explain to them the fallacy of the single cause, and then they can actually be like, oh, okay, and shift their view. So do you think I'm off the mark when it comes to my assessment of, like, the general population? I mean, my attitude isn't, yeah, 99% of people are complete and total absent-minded dumb fucks who are hopeless. It's just around 1/3 of people are.
As long as you're in that group, Gene, I agree with you.
Exactly.
You hopeless piece of shit, Gene. So hopeless.
Queer community and question of their rights, and those are basically the topics that divide political dialogue, but also the society in general.
I mean, these are topics that are dividing societies across Europe and the world, and this is an extraordinary development. I mean, to what extent do you think the
Will Sticks in the chat.
Prime Minister and his party and his coalition partners have also driven these divisions?
I think that now is not the time to look for, for the politicians that have name tags on these moods and on what's going on in Slovakia. Now is the time to step back for all of the political leaders, all of us, whole society to step back and try to unite what is divided.
What's that?
It is him, isn't it? Cause
it's a picture of Bill Hicks, but Bill Hicks says, Will Sticks, you look like a bomber caught on security camera, and it does. That picture of him looks like he's a fucking, like, it's like, have you seen this man?
He's a dangerous man. I remember him holding something.
The Prime Minister of Slovakia is recovering after an assassination attempt, and government officials say the shooter was working alone.
The Prime Minister, Robert Fico, was shot multiple times and underwent 5 hours of surgery. He's now in serious but stable condition. An investigation found a clear political motivation for the attack, but they don't.
Okay, we got the point. They went, yeah, I'm probably gonna, how long? We've only been going for 2 hours. Jeez, I'm crashing.
It does look like have you seen this man kind of picture too. It's from like the top down kind of view, like it's security camera.
He's looking up like
oh shit, I've been caught. You're in big trouble, Bill Sticks or whatever your fucking name is. You're grounded. Whoa, we got money. No, never mind. Somebody subscribe.
Oh,
that's even better than money.
No,
exactly.
We need money. Thank you for subscribing.
Okay, here we go. Holy shit, what's it doing? Yeah, but I'm really starting to crash, so let's just get to the last topic in the title, and then maybe I'll try to do another stream tomorrow.
Carrying desperately needed aid are rolling across a newly U.S.-built pier into Gaza. U.S. military officials say the floating pier project could mean up to 150 truckloads a day will get to the besieged Palestinian territory. It is only a fraction of the 500 truckloads that used to enter Gaza before the war broke out last October. Imtiaz Tayyab has more from Israel.
Good morning. Well, Israeli tanks and warplanes are continuing to bombard parts of the southern Gaza city of Rafah as the Biden administration takes major steps to dramatically increase the amount of aid getting into the besieged Palestinian territory.
I'm surprised trucks actually got through.
These are the first truckloads of desperately needed supplies that have begun to enter Gaza from the U.S.-built floating pier.
How many zippers do you think those
None.
supply trucks have?
Works like this. Already screened aid is shipped from nearby Cyprus, transferred to a floating platform, and then loaded onto trucks. The trucks are eventually moved onto smaller ships that sail to this pier, where the aid is then finally taken to shore. This major intervention by President Biden was triggered by Israel's decision to sharply restrict food, water, and medical equipment from reaching the people of Gaza. Delivery has been further complicated by the actions of extremist Israeli settlers, who earlier this week set fire to
And
these.
we're still giving billions of dollars to them. And then how much money do you think we spent on that port when Israel easily could have just allowed all those supply trucks to come to drive across the borders?
Trucks carrying goods destined for Gaza. In all, 15 trucks were down.
I don't know, until the end of the war or whatever. Or now it very well could blow up, and then they're going to claim that, oh, Hamas did it.
Damaged, causing around $2 million in losses. The Israeli soldiers just stood there and watched the settlers as they carried out this attack, said Wasim
Yeah, I think people are going to target it. I think you're going to have something like a private ship or commercial ship that accidentally crashes into it. Something. The least or the least serious scenario is probably going to be something like that.
Official. The brutal war in Gaza has so far claimed the lives of over 35,000 Palestinians, according to health officials. And it's in Gaza where around 130 hostages remain in Hamas captivity. Overnight, the Israeli...
It's like over 35 times the amount of people that died from the October 7th attack.
Military announced the remains of 3 of them, Shani Luke, Amit Bouskila, and Itzhak Galarenter, were recovered, but did not specify where in Gaza they were found. And the fighting has been intensifying across northern Gaza as Israel battles what it's calling a resurgent Hamas, and as the Israeli military calls up even more soldiers to join its offensive.
Is Hamas going to even go away? It seems like in 100% of scenarios, whenever they deal with an ISIS or a Taliban, it seems it's like a Hydra. It's like you cut off one head and 5 other fucking heads take its place.
In the southern city of Rafah, which has triggered...
We're gonna find out that they're dealing with Rafah all the way south of the Gaza Strip. We're gonna find out that there's another Hamas all the way north. They're in the West Bank or whatever. They're in Syria, Lebanon. It's just Hamas is never gonna go away. 5 years from now, we're gonna be hearing about Hamas again in the news.
Mass displacement of civilians yet again. Nancy.
MTS Tayyab, thank you.
5-year-old Mohammed lost his sight and suffered a head wound during Israeli shelling. But he is stuck waiting in a hospital in Deir al-Balah, central Gaza, because the Rafah crossing on the border with Egypt is closed. His mother, Nirma Ali Imad, is desperate to get him out of Gaza. For the medical treatment, local doctors say they can't provide. Gaza's medical system has virtually collapsed, witnesses say.
The doctors here did what they could, but we still need the authorities to cooperate with us and open the border crossing, because this is a child, and we would want him to live like other children.
They made a pier, but Biden followed through on that end. I mean, I have a feeling that the president of the United States, based on our relationship with Israel, in a single phone call, they could probably demand that these trucks are getting through. I think if we had the right president that was assertive enough, they could definitely just be like, yeah, we're going to have U.S. military forces on the border making sure that these trucks are getting in there. And if Israel decided, it's what are they going to attack these military personnel that are just there to make sure aid trucks are getting through? And the military personnel of a country that's giving them billions of dollars of aid, I don't think Netanyahu would even risk that. So it's just Biden is a piece of shit if he wanted to, or maybe he's just brain dead and he doesn't even know what's going on. But if that's the case, whoever the advisor is that's weekend at Bernie's, he's doing a weekend at Bernie's when it comes to cooperating with Netanyahu and stuff, that person is a giant fucking scumfuck. So whoever his aide and his helper is, if it's not Biden, it's that person who's a piece of shit.
In the world, he has the right to treatment. He has the right for medical care.
Egypt blames the closure on Israeli military operations around Rafah. Israel, which seized control of the crossing last week, said on Tuesday it was up to Egypt to reopen it. Remarks described by
Yeah, Brittany says, Weekend at Bernie's is funny. Have you guys seen Weekend at Bernie's? Maybe we got to do that for one of the movie nights.
I've never seen it, honestly.
I know what it's about, but I've never seen it.
Yeah, it's like everybody knows what a weekend at Bernie's is. It's when you parade around a corpse.
Yeah.
Cairo as desperate attempts to shift the blame. Abdulrahim Al-Ayyubi.
You ever done that before? You had a friend that just died on you. You don't want to get blamed for the murder. You got sunglasses on them.
There was this one chick. There was this one chick that it was like her uncle or like father or some relative like recently died, like an hour or 2 hours or whatever, and she wheeled him into a bank to sign a check or some shit. And
I remember this.
Yeah, and it didn't go too well. The teller was like, he's dead. Oh, to get a loan. Yeah.
I know there's a sequel to Weekend at Bernie's, which I've never seen.
International help for Gazans to travel abroad for treatment.
I was wounded for the sake of a bag of flour. I got 10 shots. 8 shots were from a tank in my leg, 1 shot in my pelvis, and a shot in my hand, of course. Up until now, I'm suffering from the pain. I don't have any treatment.
I don't know. He looks old enough to be a Hamas militant. What do you think?
How much of the monetary funding that we're sending to Israel is all in pennies?
I don't know. They could use the pennies as like buckshot or whatever.
No,
there is no treatment in the hospital.
As well as shutting down a vital evacuation route for patients in Gaza. The shutdown has left desperately needed foreign aid piling up on the Egyptian side of the border.
Christian
More
Broadcasting
evidence
Network.
of the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, that's UNRWA, collaborating with Hamas. Israel has released video of Hamas terrorists operating next to UN vehicles at an UNRWA facility in Rafah.
Meanwhile, reports are circulating that the Biden administration is set to send more than $1 billion in weapons and ammunition to Israel. Chris Mitchell reports from Jerusalem.
On Israel's 76th Independence Day, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met with wounded IDF soldiers. He said he was impressed by the message that several soldiers gave him. Continue.
Now, like the thing is, if they're shooting people over flour, how do they know the flour isn't like nitrate powder or whatever? I mean, don't you think they got to be safe?
What if the flour is Hamas?
Yeah. Well, what if there's like potassium nitrate in it? I mean, I don't know. What if the Red Cross is trying to smuggle that in there?
Until the end, until a decisive victory over Hamas. He also said October 7th was a watershed moment in Israel's history.
On Simchat Torah, we endured an event on a biblical scale. Our enemies attacked us, exactly on the day when the people of Israel celebrate the completion of study from Genesis to Deuteronomy and start again.
As Israel celebrated a sober Independence Day, some positive news came with reports that the Biden administration is going ahead with a $1.2 billion arms package.
Oh, it's so positive. Oh my God, they're actually doing it.
John, did he say sober Independence Day or did he mean somber?
He said sober.
Yeah, he meant to say somber, right?
They had a Gene Morgan flub.
For Israel, including tank ammunition and mortar rounds. Last week, Biden announced the U.S. withheld a shipment of bombs.
I mean, this isn't as bad as Fox News, because Fox News the other day, they were making the argument that like Biden's a coward because he's not funding Israel enough. If we had Trump or whatever, a president that actually was competent, they would actually be like they'd be able to get these aid packages through for like Israel. And then they're talking about why are people not like supporting like the aid package? Like why would they not want to like support the war against Hamas? And then they said, I think it's because our younger generation, they're just not well educated about the wonders of the U.S. and Israel and the greatness of our governments. And 1 in 3 people, 1 in 5 people are fucking retarded.
To protest Israel's plans to invade Rafah.
Look at how many people watch fucking Fox News.
The operation to eliminate Hamas in Rafah continues at a steady pace as the IDF slowly advances against the terror group's last battalions there. Hundreds of thousands of Gazans are fleeing the war zone. Israel has long accused the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, UNRWA, of collaborating with Hamas. Now it's releasing video of Hamas terrorists operating next to UN vehicles at an UNRWA facility in Rafah.
Today we revealed unusual documentation of armed terrorists next to UN vehicles that were located a few days ago, carrying out shootings inside the compound of UNRWA of the UN in East Rafah.
Foreign Minister Israel Katz said on X, the UN can't hide the truth. Quote, UNRWA is an arm of the terrorist organization Hamas. At a ceremony marking Israel's Independence Day, President Isaac Herzog emphasized recovering the hostage in Gaza is a top priority.
So Isaac Herzog, he's the one that said that every single Palestinian is responsible to some extent for supporting Hamas or allowing Hamas to reign over them and so on and so forth, even though half their population are currently fucking children.
For the Jewish people.
They are?
These days we are full of...
Yeah, I think a little over 50% are like people who are like under the under the age of like 14 or something.
Oh, I thought you meant they are fucking children.
Yeah, like over 50% are.
The pain of bereavement, pain for the wounded, the pain for civilians uprooted from their homes, the pain for the hostages. I reiterate that there is no greater mitzvah than redeeming the captives.
But the fate of the 132 hostages still in Hamas hands seems precarious. Mediators in Qatar say negotiations to reach a ceasefire and free hostages appear to be at a stalemate. On Tuesday, Hamas fired rockets into southern Israel, including Sderot, where thousands of Israelis marched calling for Israel to control.
Yeah, so apparently most inhabitants are under the age of 15.
Oh, I was thinking for a second, like Gene's looking up the kid fucking statistics for this. He's like, I have to know, are they?
Oh God.
I'm sorry.
Gaza after the war.
We want to tell everybody in Israel and everybody in the world that Gaza is very, very
Hey,
important
fucking
to
Crow
us.
started it.
And
He's
it has
the
to be,
sicko.
again, in Israeli hands. Because if it won't be in Israeli hands, we won't finish the things that we started doing in this war.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Oh, there's a few. Just take away the fact that Hamas is still firing rockets into Israel. It's absolutely incredible that the.
Well, they are currently at war, and I mean, even if Hamas is out of line firing rockets, two wrongs don't make a right. I mean, it is completely inappropriate, unnecessary. It's excessive force. It's like the logic people use with police officers, where this person's squirming around in handcuffs, so it's okay to break every bone in their body, or it's okay to, like, break an elderly woman's arm because she's resisting arrest and she's, like, 90 pounds. Because they weren't being absolutely compliant, therefore it's okay. Like, George Floyd was, he was guilty of a crime, a petty theft, so... because you're guilty of a crime, that automatically means you can't be a victim of a crime, because it's that black and white, there's no nuance. And the kind of people using this kind of logic to defend, like, what the IDF is doing are the kind of people that are, like, apologists for police brutality. They use the same kind of logic. Yeah, they fucking, like, littered somebody's body with bullets or whatever because, well, hey, they should have, like, cooperated a little bit more. They should have, like, got on the ground 1 millisecond sooner, even though they were completely unarmed and everything.
The world would be calling on ceasefire, and Israel be the target of that call.
See, like, look at how many people watch this shit, people. So I'm arrogant for thinking that, like, 1 in 5, 1 in 3 people are just complete total failures at critical thinking. They don't grasp that kind of, like, nuance that I put out there, which isn't rocket science, that two wrongs don't make a right. You can be guilty of a crime and also a victim of a crime. It's just, but I'm arrogant for thinking that there's that subset of the population that are that stupid.
What about Hamas? Can they please stop firing rockets? Can they please release all of the hostages? Can they surrender? What they did was absolutely horrific. What they're continuing to do, absolutely horrific. Israel has no choice. If you're firing...
They have no choice. I mean, again, completely and totally black and white. It seems like most of the news networks that we cover will acknowledge that Hamas is in the wrong. They will go over the fucked up things Hamas is doing. They don't just exclusively focus on Israel. But they will also go over all the fucked up things the IDF is doing. Here, it's just, there's no nuance at all. It like, they get a free pass because of, like, the, like, October 7th attacks. And it's just, it's okay for them to murder as many children as possible. Why? Because Hamas, they're bad guys. Therefore, everyone should be punished for the crimes of a select few. And it's like when Ruby, we asked him, like, what % of people in Gaza do you think are actual Hamas militants? And they said, like, 65%. And it's just, you look at how these statistics work when it comes to like armed militants in a country's population, and it is incredibly rare for it to ever go beyond 1%. It's like in the overwhelming majority of militaries, less than 1% of their population actually is conscripted to the military. And even in countries like North Korea and Eritrea, it's only at like 2-3% of the population. What's that?
Answer Damon in the chat. He said, what should be done about Hamas hiding in civilian areas? James.
Well, if you know that civilians are there, then maybe don't bomb the hell out of the area and maybe exercise a little bit more cadence and send the troops there in on foot, because they can use drones that go in and seek out where they are, and they could literally just continue to send in small kamikaze drones to deal with Hamas in a gradual manner. It would probably take a lot longer, but a lot less children would be missing their limbs. But instead, they don't care. Just shell the entire area with dumb bombs, shell it with artillery. And Israel has one of the most sophisticated militaries on the fucking planet.
Yeah, it would be like...
It's a war crime to hide amongst civilians, so bomb all the civilians.
Yeah, so it's just no nuance. So,
Yeah,
hey,
like...
a bunch of criminals, these 6 gunmen are holding like 40 people hostage. So I guess it's okay to just bomb the building and kill all the hostages.
Yeah, it'd be like if some terrorists over in Mexico bombed, did a bombing in the U.S. and then we just flatten out fucking all the cities in Mexico because of that. Just fuck all the civilians and all that because there's some terrorists that reside within that area.
When it comes to
we're
the world's
seriously
leading...
answering. Oh shit!
No. When it comes to the world's most sophisticated intelligence agencies, and these are even countries like the UK, France, the US that are pro-Israel and stuff, and these are the numbers provided by like their supercomputers and like some of the most sophisticated like programs out there. All the world's leading like tacticians, who are some of the most experienced generals when they like crunch all the numbers and the war games and stuff like that, have shown that it's not necessary for them to be using these airstrikes, using artillery. That slightly more of their troops would die overall if they just sent in ground militants, ground units, to try to flesh them out. It would take longer, but it's not like it would take that much longer. It would take like probably like 4 or 5 months longer than it's currently taking. But the thing is, a lot less people would die in the long run. And it's just, we mentioned before, they have AI, like the IDF, the Gospel, Lavender programs, which it will use facial recognition programs and some of the most sophisticated algorithms to determine where a particular journalist is. And they're not just targeting Hamas militants, they're targeting journalists. And this is something that isn't an opinion. Like, it's in their like software. Even their allies, the US and the UK, that are going through the programs and looking at the code, that this is something that's just hard data, have shown that they are indeed using these programs, and they have it programmed where they're allowed to kill 40 civilians for every 1 target. And a lot of the targets are journalists, they're not even militants. So, in those algorithms, why do they have it programmed where, like, the parameters, it can kill up to, like, 40 civilians and children, along with that 1 militant that it's going after? I mean, it's like, Israel's got nuclear fucking weapons. They have, like, the Iron Beam, which are, like, these, like, ground, like, surface to air like laser technology that can like shoot down missiles with like some of the most like pinpoint accuracy. I don't think they need. Well, they have the Iron Dome, but they've upgraded it. There's the Iron Beam in conjunction with the Iron Dome. I mean, it is like, but they're using dumb bombs. And that's the thing. They could send in like these small sort of kamikaze drones where they could use all of these advanced like computer programs to find out where they are in the tunnels and stuff. And they could be sending in sophisticated drones to go in and just gradually like flesh them out, but they're not going to do that because they don't fucking care. They're just going to turn the place into a crater.
Rockets into that country, the country has to respond. They just can't say, well, I'm sorry, our hands are tied by international opinion. They are going to have to go in this battle of ideology.
It's also just, even if you exclusively rely on the figures that the IDF is providing people with, you look at how many like civilians that they're not, because they're classifying like librarians as like Hamas sort of operatives. Anyone who's a bureaucrat is considered an operative for Hamas. So even though they're like using that sort of equivocation, it's still like in like the tens of thousands of civilian casualties. And that's those are the numbers that the IDF is providing you with. So it's just the most biased source imaginable from Israel themselves are showing like these really like fucked up metrics. So it's just the fact that like regardless of how biased the sources are, even the most are still showing these unacceptable fucking numbers.
And it is a battle of ideology. You're not going to win that battle.
Read Damon's last comment.
The U.S. nuked Japan twice, just as they thought of having to invade mainland Japan. The U.S. weighed the cost, and blah, blah. Well, one, there's plenty of people that have refuted that, where that argument that, hey, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. They did it because they ended the war much quicker and saved all these lives. Didn't Japan, weren't they ready to surrender before they even dropped the nukes? I mean, yeah, so that's inaccurate fucking history. And it's like the engineer who came up with the nuclear bomb, he mentioned that they should drop the bomb next to the city. And then once they see the power of the bomb, they would surrender. So why did they do that first? I mean, even if you're going to make the argument that nuking the city was necessary, you don't think that if they at least attempted it, let's drop a nuke in close proximity where you're killing a lot less people, they couldn't just do that. And then on top of all of that, the United States was engaging in air raids where even before they dropped the nukes, they were flying like fleets over cities and towns and just bombing the hell out of them. Like all of these civilian populated areas. They weren't even attacking the military. And the logic people use is they attacked Pearl Harbor. So that made it okay to go in and kill all of these innocent women and children. And I mean, again, two wrongs don't make a right. Even though Japan was in the wrong, even though Nazi Germany was in the wrong, the US, Britain, and France were also guilty of a lot of fucked up things as well. It's like if something like Winston Churchill talked about how maybe they wouldn't be dealing with famine and stuff if the Indians didn't breed like rabbits. India was a colony and there were more Indian soldiers that died in the war than British soldiers for a war that wasn't even theirs. They were just using them as I guess a young military private sort of fucking farm. But hey, because Hitler was really bad, that made it okay for all the other countries fighting against them to engage in war crimes and do a bunch of fucked up things. America created a bunch of prison camps, and we took people who were Japanese citizens, or even people who didn't even have Japanese, they weren't even ethnically Japanese, and we locked them all up in prison camps because Japan attacked us. And it's like, maybe our prison camps weren't as bad as the concentration camps in like Nazi Germany, but still, I don't think that made it okay because the side we were fighting against was doing things that were even worse.
Battle with arms. Now, if they're firing rockets at you, you have to stop that. But the ideology has to be addressed head on. Currently, we're not doing a good job on the PR side of things. We're sending very mixed messages around the world that we're going to withhold weapons for Israel. Now we're sending weapons to Israel. We're going to take UNRWA's funding away. That happened in the Trump administration. President Trump said this is ridiculous. They're aiding terrorists. They're training in hate ideology. Our taxpayer dollars shouldn't go to that. Very first week of the Biden administration, all of that funding restored. And now we're seeing that absolutely UNRWA is part of Hamas. They've been training children in schools to hate Jews. That's why you have a
I mean, this is something where when it's a very blanket statement. So when I talk to a bunch of boomers that watch exclusively Fox News, they'll talk about how, all these children, they're trained or they're brainwashed to hate the West. Not every single Islamic state in the Middle East is the same. A lot of them have different levels of corruption and draconianism. And even in some of the worst cases, like with the Taliban currently in Afghanistan, we saw examples of them interviewing these young boys that were like no older than 12. And they were talking about how they think women have a right to education and stuff when they're currently in a country that's being controlled by the Taliban. And of course, and there's lots of Americans when you talk to them, and it's just, they act like the Middle East is just one country. Like every single Islamic state, they have they're all just as draconian when it comes to how they enforce people to follow the Quran, where it's the same thing with in America, not everyone's following the Bible in an absolutely literal manner. And if you did, it's like, it says in the Bible, you can beat your slaves as long as you don't kill your slaves through beating them. And it's the same thing with Christianity. I don't think most people who are Muslim are going about following the faith in an absolutely literal manner.
Hamas militant on a cell phone on October 7th, calling his parents and just bragging about how many Jews he killed and them celebrating. It's an ideology that fuels this. In our struggle, let us.
So even if that one scenario is true, this is where you have some kind of selection bias. Here's one extreme case of a young kid that's actually getting their hands dirty and probably engaging or participating to some extent when it comes to the combat and the war. So therefore that means that all of the, it's something like there's 2 million, 4 million people living in Gaza. Most of them are children. I don't think one or two examples of kids doing that equates to all the millions of kids participating in the war to that extent.
Well, what's fucked up is if they have a problem with terrorists, really, they're making terrorists. So I guess the idea is that's why, even Netanyahu said there are no innocent civilians in Gaza. Everyone is somehow implicated, right? That's the words of their government. So if they basically, if there are any survivors or the survivors who are there now, it really isn't a fucking wonder that after, because some military fucking group that is supposed to represent your country made a decision that you had no fucking direct involvement in and did attack. Now you've literally had your land that you have access to cut in half with a fucking road while they took it. It's done, and then everything else is getting bombed to fucking rubble, and you get sequestered into one fucking city, and all you can really fucking do is fight for your life. It shouldn't come as a fucking shock that there's a couple of young kids out there like, yeah, I got 5 of them today.
Oh, and God. What's that, Shab?
Are you reading the chat, Shab?
Yeah, Damon says, no, the Bible isn't, or is against slavery.
Oh.
There's a difference
I'm sure
between
he's actually read
servants
the
and
fucking
slaves.
Bible.
He says, no, they're servants, not slaves in the Bible, and there's a difference.
I'm pretty sure that they literally use the word slave.
Let me ask.
Not to mention the Bible's been translated a few fucking times before we as Americans got our hands on it, so keep that in mind as well. But yeah, it all pretty much means the same fucking thing. And so is it really that much of a difference if you can beat your servant or you can beat your slave?
Yeah, there's all sorts of bad stuff. That's just the tip of the iceberg. Like it also says that if your kid cusses at you, to take him in the middle of a town and stone him to death. It says
God sent a bear. Hold on. God sent a bear to kill 2 children because they were making fun of a bald dude. That's in the fucking Bible.
I mean, it's figurative. It means whatever your heart wants it to mean. The stuff that's not compatible by ethics of like modern society, all of that stuff, they're just stories. But even though the overall like message of the story is still condoning slavery, well, it was written a long time ago, but isn't it supposed to be the word of God? Isn't God supposed to be some all-powerful, all-knowing, omnipotent being? So if they're this perfect specimen, why is it so dated? And it's like, oh, well, you don't know God's grand plan. And it's like, if you're just going to interpret it however you want, then it's meaningless. It's the cult of the blank page. You might as well take a book that is just nothing but a bunch of blank pages and just go about life, have no moral compass, just believe whatever you want to believe, interpret things however you want.
You write your own Bible.
It's just equivocation. And that's how most people follow the fucking Bible. It's just they're like Christian in name only. They go about life, they just interpret information however they fucking want. And then when you bring up how that?
I was just gonna say, Damon, it's funny how you don't find it ironic that you're comparing the Bible to the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, because nobody cites the fucking Lord of the Rings in any sort of argument against anything.
Yeah, but
that's
you are
completely fucking stupid.
Yeah, and
it's
like
a fairy tale.
Going back to them like discussing the demographics of how they're brainwashed to hate the West, there's polls and surveys where they ask citizens of all these different countries what they think of the United States, what they think of Western culture, so on and so forth. Do they think this? Do they think that? And it seems like the majority opinion is we don't like the governments. We don't have an issue with the people. There are a lot of bigots in all parts of the world where they just don't know how to see people as individuals, and they don't know how to separate the government from the people and see all the different dynamics of a country. But it's just overall, it seems like unless it's a country like North Korea, pretty much most countries seem to look at things where, hey, we don't like the government, we don't have a problem with the people. But I guess the Pew Research Center and all these world's leading academic institutions that are responsible for collecting this information are wrong. It's the journalists on Fox News that know what they're talking about.
Stand strong with Israel. Let's stand strong against anti-Semitism, against this ideology of hate that says from the river to the sea. They want to wipe Israel out. They want to commit genocide. They want to kill every single Jew.
So does Israel not want to commit genocide? They're establishing settlements in northern Gaza now. I mean, they were doing that in the West Bank. The West Bank is just a bunch of enclaves, and they have they're establishing a bunch of towns and stuff, and Israeli citizens are establishing permanent residents in those areas, and they're starting to do the same thing in Gaza, and they've even straight up acknowledged that they plan on doing that. So it's all this is something that they're overtly acknowledging, that they're going to occupy even more of Gaza and take away even more land.
Stand on the side of Israel in this struggle and be very clear. This ideology cannot survive, and especially it won't survive on our tax dollars. It's time to absolutely.
So we're going to spend billions of dollars on another genocide to stop this supposed genocide that he's talking about.
In Gaza, where fierce battle is underway in the north of the Strip, the Israeli military says 5 of its soldiers have been killed and 7 injured in friendly fire incidents in Jabalia. But Hamas has released this video saying
Who
12
do you think spamming the laughing emoji?
Israeli soldiers have died.
Bill
In
Hicks.
January, Israel declared it had dismantled Hamas battalions
Probably
in Jabalia.
Diesel.
We'll have Israeli reaction very shortly. Mohammed Jamjoon is standing by in Amman, in Jordan. But first, let's cross over to Tariq Abu Azoum, who's in Deir al-Balah in central Gaza. So as the sun rises, Tariq, the overnight death toll rises, and the focus continues to be now up in the north of the Gaza
more
Strip.
high than me, man.
Yeah, that's right, Sohail. The Israeli military is completely focusing now in 2 main areas across this strait. Jabalia in the north and Rafah in the farmost south city in this strait. Now, in the north, Jabalia is considered to be, from the Israeli perspective, one of the strongest strongholds.
And see, like, they've been killing their own fucking soldiers and hostages and stuff because, again, there's no fucking cadence whatsoever.
Why is he holding a raccoon?
God. Provide the best commentary, bro.
It's a gerbil.
Of Hamas movement, where they are trying to chase all the Palestinian armed troops there in order to militarily dismantle the fabric within that area. But battles have been described to be completely violent and aggressive. Specifically, that the Israeli military has announced the death of 5 Israeli soldiers, while 7 others being injured, and those who have been injured have been transferred to Israeli hospitals to receive medical treatment. But the nature of the fighting there sounds critically hard and difficult due to the narrow streets of the camp and the unprecedented scale of destruction being caused by the Israeli ongoing intense military bombardment of the.
My whole thing about this conflict is Israel has shrunk their land by more than half since 48. It's never really helped. Israel hasn't been in the Gaza Strip since 2005. Yeah, they have. You can find examples of them sending killdozers, armored bulldozers in to, like, I guess, like, to level entire streets and neighborhoods. It's something where they have been bombing indiscriminately in Israel, and this is the like apex, the most significant example of this happening, but there have been ongoing attacks and bombardments in Gaza. And you're saying, like, 48, you clearly don't know your history, because that was right at the end of, like, World War II. Like, World War II ended in, like, 1945, and it was right after World War II where they carved out like half of that territory and caused, like, a very large percentage of the population, over 1 million people, to relocate, taking their like homes away from them, their property away from them, and not compensating them for, like, that just abrupt seizure of land. And then on top of all that, you had, like, the the 6-Day War, the Yom Kippur War. There were, like, multiple major military disputes with, like, Israel against Palestine and other, like neighboring countries. So you clearly don't know your fucking history when you claim that since 1948 they've had no, like, direct contact or direct military, like, engagement with Gaza.
Since 2005.
John, just real quick, look up the territory of Palestine and Israel between where, like.
Well, we've done this 1,000,001 times
I know,
but we keep showing people because people are idiots.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. You're talking about how the map thing, showing over the years. I think.
Yeah, just fucking like save it in like a PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Or because you can see who the aggressor is. Is it Palestine or is it Israel?
Yeah, and originally this was land that was privately owned, so this wasn't sovereign territory. Then after the war, Britain, which they were part of the Ottoman Empire, and then Britain ended up at the end of World War I. The Ottoman Empire collapsed, and then Britain and France carved out their territories amongst themselves. And colonialism was pretty much the catalyst for World War I, and they clearly didn't learn their lesson or whatever after World War I, because World War I pretty much resulted in World War II, and colonialism also was a very significant factor, and I guess provoking a lot of the conflict. But then they just carved out these unnatural borders, gave half of the territory to them, and it's like you have the Falkland Islands that. It has like 3 times the amount of surface area, and no one was like living there. They could have given that to like the Israeli people. So it's stupid. It's just like this, like they had to put them there because of just stupid cultural reasons. And then more military disputes broke out, and a lot of it was because people that have been living here for generations and generations and generations, people inheriting homes from their parents who inherited those homes from their great-grandparents and so forth, they had to relocate, and they were given like pretty much no financial compensation. And I mean, of course, shit started to hit the fan. Violence broke out amongst both groups of people, but you did see a lot of like violence from like the Israeli police and their military and so forth. And then after multiple military disputes like the Yom Kippur War and the 6-Day War and so forth, they pretty much made it so like it's divided into the West Bank and Gaza, so it turns into 2 enclaves that aren't connected to one another. And then right here, like they've been establishing towns and settlements. So now the West Bank that was an enclave in and of itself, now it's fragmented into dozens of different enclaves. And now with Gaza, they're building a road in the middle of it, and it's something where it's like I looked at, it's like 1/7 the surface area of Rhode Island, but then it has like 5 times the population, and now it's one of the most densely populated like territories on the planet, and now they're dividing the surface area roughly by half, and now like 1-2 million, like 2-3 million people are going to be segregated into half of the surface area that is like 1/7 the surface area of Rhode Island. What's that?
So, if you didn't get it, Damon, the green part is Palestine, then the white part is Israel. And it used to be all green, and then it became all white over time. So you're trying to talk about Israel having what did he say before about their land or whatever? He said that Israel that they shrunk their land by more than half since 48.
Well,
or whatever. It's like
they shrunk it a lot more by just like half.
And less than
Isn't that funny that Damon, like, so again, I'm not talking shit, Damon, okay? So it's okay to be misinformed. So that's I'm glad you're informing yourself. He literally thought it was the opposite situation, that Palestine was encroaching on Israel. And that's the problem, is so many people are so opinionated about the situation, they know very fucking little actually about it. Because that's what Fox News tells me, these are the bad guys, these are the good guys. That's what my granddaddy said when he got up and watched the news morning. These are the bad guys and these are the good guys. And these are the people who tell you to think for itself. Like, fuck,
yeah,
dude.
you need to get your information from a wide array of different sources, and you shouldn't just be exclusively watching one news network, because the news is a journalistic source, and journalistic sources are incredibly fucking biased. So it's okay to like rely on journalistic sources to some extent for current events, but you should also be paying attention to academic sources. And you should be getting information from a wide array of different sources overall. And you should probably do this thing known as research. Find some books on the subject. Read, look up the history. A lot of people, it's just, they exclusively just will tune into a few journalistic sources, and that's where they get all their information from. What's that, Shab?
I like Damon. He seems like he has a decent level of modesty.
Mm-hmm. You're modest and you're willing to admit that you don't fucking know something. Hey, I like you. You're cool. You're welcome here. Everybody's welcome here. Even the people who don't agree with us or don't care to learn from what we have to say, we'll talk to you all night.
And I like how Eric says bullshit, and it's like, do you have a counter argument, Eric? Are you going to try to refute what we're saying? Or if you just, if somebody argues that 2 + 2 = 4, and you're like, bullshit, I'm gonna spam a bunch of like rolling on the floor laughing emojis. I guess it's stupid to believe 2 + 2 = 4 now.
Yeah,
and I'm sure, like Eric talking about modesty, I'm sure they're going to take some time to do some homework and cross-reference what we're saying. Probably Google some of this stuff to see if there's any like legitimacy behind what we're saying. But no, just assume that what we're saying is wrong, and just act as if your baseless assumptions are true, because that's how you know that you're like a logical human being. It's what is it? Socratic knowledge, recognizing one's own ignorance, recognizing one's own lack of knowledge. Knowledge is a justified true belief. But if you just, again, make a baseless assumption and act as if that baseless assumption is true, that's not being a dumbass.
Well, Eric did say earlier that Islam is genocidal for real, not Israel.
Yeah, because they said that. And you just make some blanket declarative statement, and if you just open your mouth and say X is true, then I guess it's true. Why? Because, nothing after because, just because. That the one sentence essay format of discourse. So it's almost like that's a logical fallacy known as begging the question, where also known as circular reasoning, where your thesis acts as your conclusion.
Your conclusion.
Yeah.
Do people actually don't realize that Judaism, Christianity, and Islam are based on are Abrahamic faiths, and like it's like the fucking Lord of the Rings, like it's the same fucking thing,
It's
but
trilogy.
yeah,
it's the Abraham verse.
Yeah, pretty much. And then like
don't forget the Book of Mormon.
Oh, that's completely fucking different. And same with Scientology.
Yeah, that was like a failed reboot.
Well, I'd say it's like a parallel like version. So I guess the third installment, like Islam would be the third installment there, but then I guess like the Book of Mormon decides that no, it actually after the Bible, the Book of Mormon's the real third installment.
No, the Book of Mormon is like fan fiction, and Scientology is actually Scientology is all by itself. That's fucked.
Think the shooter was a member of any political group. Vico has been a divisive figure who has embraced Russia and pushed back at American values. The suspect.
No, not American values. All right, Gene. This is the end of the show.
What's that?
We're done. We're done here, Gene. We won the war.
We won the war.
We beat all the haters.
Yeah, we won. We won this one, Gene. We're the greatest.
Anyway, at least we gave them 3 hours. I am really starting to crash, and I need to get to bed.
Yeah,
so,
gay.
Maybe we can. I have plenty of content, so I can try to go live tomorrow, or I guess tonight. But I think I provided some decent commentary for somebody who is trying to fight off disease.
You're decent commentary for someone with such horrible autism.
Yeah.
All right, so what's up, Dirt? I mean, Drunken Dirt, whatever your name is.
No, I just wanted to point out that like in like the past 3 streams, or maybe 2 or 3, I don't know, that we've had someone that in the chat that tried to like, oh no, I don't know about this situation, and like we kind of schooled them. They're like, oh, thank you for informing me. And
what we're here to do.
Yeah.
Show. Infotainment, John calls it.
Infotainment.
Yes.
I looked up that map. Their website devoted to disproving the map you showed. Now I'm just back at ground zero.
What?
Dude, there's websites that say that the Earth is flat.
I mean, the point is that Palestine was its own state. There was no Israel in terms of like the Zionistic, like sort of Jewish state that we know today. So Israel wasn't a country in terms of like the Zionistic Israel until post World War II. So when people are like, oh, they're encroaching on like Israel and stuff, they keep firing missiles at their backyard and stuff, you are aware that that country wasn't there until just like a few generations ago. They just abruptly carved out that chunk of land and gave it to a
entirely different group of people that weren't there. And then people make the argument that, oh, well, the Israelites, they were there like in ancient times. And it's like, well, that's ancient history. I don't think the people that were living there in the fucking 40s, where you go back like 20 fucking generations and it's still far removed going that far back. So, I mean, I'm sorry, but I do think once we're trying to look at ancient history as a way to justify punishing people in like the modern age people that are alive today, I think that's a bit too far removed.
And the Earth wasn't a globe until the internet was invented.
1945 is ancient history too. Not exactly. So if you look at that map again, and see how it takes time to take that territory, right? So
yeah, it didn't happen overnight.
Yeah, this is not ancient history, my friend. This is constant history. This is the same for a while now.
What they said before, where they weren't in there, like they backed out in 1948 and they haven't like touched Gaza since. No, that's not the case. This has been ongoing. This has been something that has been very gradual and stuff throughout like since post World War II.
Yeah, you should call like 1945 ancient history like as a joke, not in a serious way. It's a funny joke.
Yeah.
It's like grandma's ancient, huh? Grandma, what did you walk around with the dinosaurs, you old bitch?
I'm fairly certain when it comes to like when you talk to historians, typically ancient times ended.
Yeah, well,
when the Middle Ages began, and then
the Renaissance.
The Middle Ages led to the Renaissance. And now we're in the modern age.
Well, John, this is... Damon again brings up a good point. That's if we can 100% trust this map, John. That's 1945. These are ancient scrolls we're talking about here.
Yeah.
They were on paper. Remember paper?
But when people make the argument...
1945, John.
When people make the argument that the Israelites were there first, it's just... You know what? It sucks, but they're expelled from the land halfway through the ancient era. So for a decent percentage of the ancient era, you had Palestinians living there, where at the end of the ancient era, I'd say the people that were living there several generations after that, they had nothing to do with that dispute. And then throughout the entirety of the Middle Ages and the entirety of the Renaissance and throughout the 19th century and the like earlier half of the 20th century, the Palestinians were living there. So I think that sitting there and being like, hey, when their relatives have been living there all throughout the Middle Ages and the Renaissance, I think, maybe it's not fair to take the land away from them when there's people that are currently living there today.
John, these were based on paper maps. Remember paper? Anything before AI-generated maps, that's ancient. So paper, ancient. AI generated.
Yes, exactly.
New.
1400 years ago or whatever. Yep. And the thing is, one of the things you'll find when you look at just ancient history overall is that you had nomadic people, and nomadic people were constantly traveling from different regions where they would settle down for probably like a generation here, a generation there. You'd have other groups that would come in and expel them. So you could probably find hundreds of different ethnic groups, or probably even thousands, that if you look at where they're living now, and they've been living in, like, I don't know, this part of Mongolia for the last, like, 900 years, you might find that particular, like, ethnic group, they were once living in some part of, like, Cambodia. And then they were expelled by some other ethnic group, and then they had to travel to some other part of the globe. That is something that is just a very ubiquitous theme of ancient human history.
So it's just, are we going to give the land back to the Native Americans? That like is an example of a group of people who were displaced much more recently in human history. Like a couple hundred years is a blink of the eye when it comes to human history.
I just want to point out that if you're like someone brought up fucking Allah or some shit, like Muhammad. Muhammad married a 9-year-old, and if you think that Judaism is any more moral, no, you're fucking wrong as well.
No, you're wrong.
Alaska and Hawaii were purchased, though I guess, they were purchased from colonies or rulers that didn't really care for those colonies. Well, Alaska, was that even fucking inhabited when we bought that?
Alaska?
No, the ice box, right? I don't know. Anyways, yeah, right, we should just cede all the land back to the Native Americans. That's not what I'm saying, dude. So, literally, we squeezed 20 minutes out of this conversation here. Let me try to sum up a good point here. It may seem overly cocky to say. It may seem, and I doubt I'll ever eat my fucking words. I sincerely fucking doubt it. But people who support Israel in their genocide against Palestine one day will be seen as being on the wrong side of history. Now, us living through history right now, there's a lot of people who are uninformed who really just make snap judgments and say, yeah, them people bad, other people good, whatever. But unfortunately, when you have things like concentration camps, literally bombing every fucking habitable city in the entire fucking region, and then telling them to evacuate to this one city, and then telling them, hey, yeah, we're going to bomb that too. So you have nowhere to run. There's nowhere to go. That's genocide. The people they've captured, they've literally rounded up into concentration camps. That is genocide. So if you support Israel right now, you support genocide. And that's pretty, them's the breaks, my friends. That's the short and the long of it.
And just because the Jews were genocided doesn't mean they're right to do the same fucking thing to the Palestinians.
And just because Hamas, a military group that operates out of Palestine, doesn't mean that every single Palestinian civilian deserves to be genocided. This is just the excuse Israel needed to engage in another crazy fucking land grab. There you go.
Yeah, and I mean, should Hamas be condemned? Yes, Hamas should be condemned and the IDF should be condemned. Both groups are in the wrong.
Yeah, and I'll say this. I disagree with the protest tactic where people will say, can you condemn Hamas? And people just say, I'm not talking about that. I'm disregarding that issue. Don't run from the issue. Yeah, Hamas is bad. So fucking what? The people in there aren't. There are plenty of fucking innocent civilians inside those borders. So it really just kind of muddies the waters and makes people, it kind of seems bad faith to me to just be like, oh, okay, I'm not talking about Hamas. I'm not talking about Hamas. I'm talking about, which is, fine, but I just think it doesn't do any good for the movement.
All right, I think we need to wrap it up, Jane. I want to have butt sex with you. I'm in the mood.
No condom.
Yeah, we don't do that gay shit. All right.
Always here to add the most constructive commentary.
Yeah, that's me. I'm the greatest with my gay Bud Light. See, I'm drinking Bud Light, so I want to fuck you.
Okay, well, anyway, peace out. I gotta go sleep. I'll probably be around tomorrow for another stream.
Peace, guys.
Vista.
Peace.